Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, streaming, some TV, all sorts of good stuff. And it's Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, which means we're back on schedule. That means Aaron Cummings and Joey are here. How you doing, guys?
We're good. We're good. As you know, we just drove in this morning from a little staycation out in Palm Springs, and Joey had such a busy holiday of sleeping that she's exhausted, so we're going to put her back in her little bed. And to all of our friends and family, I know lots of my family members in Texas, sending you lots and lots of warm wishes. I hope you get your power and your water back very soon. I hope that your pipes are intact. And if you are able to, please find some way to help out your neighbor, our neighbors, our friends in Texas, because I know a lot of people are going through a really rough time, my parents included. But you know, my dad's the oldest living Boy Scout, so they're doing well despite being on day 4 of no water and no power.
You know, it's funny because I was there was this thing of I read some people in the northern states like writing, "Oh, boo-hoo, we get way worse than this all the time." And as a Canadian, I can tell you, yeah. Like, and hey, we get it worse than you do, northern states. But the thing is, you're talking about a place that is not accustomed to having, they don't have an infrastructure to deal with this sort of thing. So it is really amazing to see.
Well, and there's no backup because Texas is not on the federal grid. That's what
I know nothing about that, but it's
Texas, because Texas still has in our state constitution that we can secede at any time, basically.
Texas, ladies and gentlemen,
it's a whole thing. But yes, it's kind of like when it rains in California for more than a day. People go, "Oh, boo-hoo, it's just rain." We flood our whole city. Our whole state floods.
The infrastructure is just not here for it.
Exactly. So sending lots of love and thoughts to everyone in Texas right now.
Best wishes to everybody in Texas. And as Aaron said, if you have an opportunity to help somebody out, please, by all means, do go and help them out. All right, guys. Listen, we do have a number of big things to talk about here today. We're very excited about having you guys here today. Listen, one of the best pieces of news I've heard in a long time. We're going to talk about it here in a bit. Paddington. I know that seems ridiculous. I know that seems really odd that this is something I'm sitting here wanting to talk about. But Paddington, ladies and gentlemen, Paddington is on its way. I am very much looking forward to seeing that. I cannot believe they're going to do that. We also have other things to talk about here, guys. But listen, before we get to any of that, let's get to a little bit of house cleaning. And let's start off with this. If you guys haven't done so already, or if you're new around here, why don't you take a second and click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to our YouTube channel, keep you up to date on all the things that we've got going on around here. And it'll just be good to have you guys here joining us as well. Okay, guys. With that down, let's get into our main topics today. And, oh, wait a minute, I almost forgot. For those of you in the live chat, my apologies. Almost forgot about this. We do have something I also want to touch on here. And that is this. You guys know that tomorrow we will be having our WandaVision open spoiler discussion that we do all the time. We have our open spoiler discussion every Friday is what we do. But starting today, and for the next couple of weeks, we are also going to be doing, before WandaVision comes out, we are going to be doing a WandaVision pregame show. So tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that's 8 p.m. New York time, so 5 p.m. Los Angeles time, we are going to be doing a WandaVision pregame show. It's going to be about an hour for us, all of you guys and myself, to get together and talk about what we believe, what we think is going to happen in WandaVision that night. So tonight at 5 p.m., again, that's Pacific Standard Time. I hope you guys will join us for that. And we will talk about all of our predictions for what's going to happen in WandaVision tonight. And then, of course, tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Ann and I will be doing our weekly WandaVision spoiler discussion, post-game show, if you will. Really, really looking forward to that. And I hope you guys will join us for that. And yes, if you want to tailgate tonight as we do our pregame show, by all means, if you're of age and you want to crack some adult beverages, by all means, we hope you will join us for that. Okay, guys. With that down, let's get into our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them. Whenever you guys come across a big story, topic, or issue that you think we should cover as a main topic here on the John Campea Show, just go anytime to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get into main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Maximilian. I love that name. And Maximilian writes, "Hello, John. Hope all is well. All is well. Thank you very much for asking, my friend. This seems to be coming out of left field because I never saw it coming. Tim Burton is to make his directorial debut on television for Netflix with the Addams Family. Well, kind of. The show is actually called Wednesday and will follow Wednesday Addams as she deals with different supernatural occurrences at Nevermore Academy. What are your thoughts on this, and is it a win for Netflix?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, this did kind of, I remember there being some discussion, some rumbling about this a little while ago, but it is now actually fully come to fruition. We've got Tim Burton is going to be directing a Netflix series called Wednesday. This comes to us from the folks over at Variety who write, "Based on the character originally created by Charles Addams, Wednesday is a young adult TV series." Sounds like it's kind of in the vein of a Riverside or Riverdale or Sabrina. "Described as a sleuthing, supernaturally infused mystery charting Wednesday Addams' years as a student at Nevermore Academy. She attempts to master her emerging psychic ability, thwart a monstrous killing spree that has terrorized the local town, and solve the supernatural mystery that embroiled her parents 25 years ago. All while navigating her new and very tangled relationships at Nevermore." That, of course, comes to us from the folks at Variety. I'm kind of torn on this.
Okay.
I have two different minds on this. Part number one is, as an idea for your young adult show, this sounds very in tune with a lot of the other stuff that we're seeing these days. I mean, this sounds very reminiscent of Riverdale and Sabrina and stuff like that. And those things are working. They're finding audiences, they're working. So that makes sense. Kind of taking a different angle at the Addams Family is a neat idea. And this makes me very unpopular with my cinephile friends. I'm not a big Tim Burton guy.
Okay.
I mean, there's a couple of his films that I really like.
He's a very specific choice.
That's a great way to put it. He's a very specific choice. And what's funny is a lot of my friends who love Tim Burton, don't like his movie of his Willy Wonka movie.
Yeah.
Whereas I actually do like his Willy Wonka movie.
Oh, I think it's sacrilege.
Not as good as the original. I'm not saying it's as good as the original, but I'm a little bit weird. And there are a couple of his films that I enjoy. Obviously, the Michael Keaton Batman film, but I find his style so one-dimensional, if that's the way. It's like his style, he's very, very different and unique, but he's always he's always the same kind of different and unique. But I don't know, for whatever reason, certain films of his work for me, certain don't. But this is a win for Netflix. Number one, it's an interesting idea for a show. It's a recognizable IP, and you now get the bragging rights that this is gonna be the first time Tim Burton does a television series, and he's doing it for us. So I think it's a win. I'm not excited about it, but I'm intrigued by it. So it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. What did you think about this when you saw this?
Ooh, I'm so excited. I am thrilled about this because not only do I love the Addams Family as a franchise, I loved the television show, which I was actually shocked. I went back and looked. It only ran for 2 seasons. I mean, I remember as a kid watching the reruns, and it just seemed like there were so many episodes. But back then, what I also didn't realize is that seasons were like 32 episodes, not 22. So we had a lot more to choose from. But so I love the franchise. I really enjoy Tim Burton. I wouldn't say that I'm the biggest Tim Burton fan, but I really enjoy his work. And it's interesting, in hearing you talk about him, I feel like Tim Burton is to directors what black olives are to toppings. I
can't wait to hear where this is going to go.
I cannot eat a pizza without black olives on it. Tom will not eat a pizza with black olives on it. So we always
That's why Tom and I will order one pizza. You and Ann can order another pizza altogether.
Or see, but here's how I compromise. Here's my good wife compromise. We just order whatever pizza Tom wants with black olives on the side, and then I can strategically.
Oh, that's smart.
Yes, and I'm also a little OCD about topping placement. Anyway, way off topic at this point. But, he's a very specific choice. Not good for everything, but really, really right for some things. And I also don't feel that every director has to be the director of all things. And I like when a director has a very specific brand. When you go to watch a Michael Bay film, you know what you're getting. You're not going to get The Pianist when you go see a Michael Bay film. And similarly, when you go see a Tim Burton film, you know what you're getting. I did not love Willy Wonka because I was just a diehard fan of the Gene Wilder film. So in defense of Tim Burton, nothing was ever going to compare. I think I like the idea of Wednesday Addams as a young adult. But what I would love is her to be really young. Like, Christina Ricci was 11 years old when she did The Addams Family.
Wow.
And she was so brilliant. And I really hope that Tim Burton keeps that level of just sort of dry, droll humor. One of my favorite lines from The Addams Family was when the little blonde girl comes up and to the lemonade stand and says, is your lemonade made with real lemons? And then Christina Ricci turns to her because she's a Girl Scout and she says, are your Girl Scout cookies made with real Girl Scouts? It's one of the best lines. And she's just so sinister, but in a very innocent way. I would love to see a very young Wednesday Addams, maybe at a boarding school. And if anybody out there is a bit,
they won't because they're calling it a young adult sort of thing.
I know. Yeah, I know. But I would love to see her navigating, going through junior high and high school and letting us grow up with her. And if that's a possibility, might I suggest Violet McGraw? She was in Dr. Sleep. She's in the new Black Widow.
I like her in that.
She also did the short film Grummy with my husband, Tom Degnan, directed by our friends Micheline Pitt and Chip Norman. And Violet McGraw is a young star rising and would be brilliant if they were going that young. She's only 10 years old. Look her up anyway, regardless. But I really hope that they keep Wednesday Addams just delicious, sinister humor, because that's what really made Christina Ricci a star, to be honest. I mean, that movie launched her career, and not just because of who she was surrounded by, but also her performance in it. One thing I will say, the entire Twitterverse is freaking out saying that Johnny Depp must be involved in this.
Oh, hell no.
He won't be.
No, hell no.
Like, he will not be.
No,
and it's also not even about about.
And I don't even say hell no because of any of this the controversy stuff going on.
No,
I mean, hell no. It's like, no, we saw him in What We Do in the not What We Do in the Shadows. What's that one where he played the vampire for Tim Burton?
Oh yeah,
something
Michelle
in the
Pfeiffer.
dark or something in the dark.
Well, the Shadows in the Dark. I'm sure the chat is.
You guys in the
what's
chat.
The chat
what was
saying?
The, what was
chat
the name
room,
of that damn waste of space? And plus, we've seen Johnny Depp with Tim Burton enough. So we don't. Dark Shadows.
Dark Shadows.
Something in the dark. Something shadows. Dark Shadows.
Dark Shadows. Yes.
Thank you, everybody in the chat.
But not only that, but this isn't about Morticia and her husband, whose name I'm also blanking on. Chat room, please help me out. It's not about them. It's about Wednesday, and she's going to be off at school. So we might see him, but it'll literally be somebody who comes in to do a 1-episode guest star, maybe a small recurring. I will say, if Sean Astin is not cast as a teacher in this, that will be the greatest. That would be, because his father played. Oh God, what's the dad's name? I'm saying that I'm Gomez. Thank you guys.
Gomez.
I'm saying that I'm a huge
Gomez
fan. And I
Addams.
can't remember his name. Yeah. So Sean Astin's father Fred Astin played the original Gomez Addams.
I had no idea there was a connection there. I had no idea that
So
Sean
I
Astin was his son.
think because, obviously Sean Astin is back. I mean, he was beloved anyway as an actor, and now he's back after his turn on Stranger Things. So I'm really excited about this, and I hope that Tim Burton keeps some of that lovely humor that we saw from the film version and doesn't make it too CW.
Well, guys, questions. By the way, Kung Fu Hot Dog sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you for that, Kung Fu Hot Dog. Anyway, guys, question is for you. You've heard about this. What do you think about this Wednesday show? I'm not excited about it, but I am intrigued by it. It certainly is a big win to me for Netflix getting Tim Burton on board to do his first television stuff. How do you guys feel about it? Jump into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets sent in to us by Quirky Joe. And Quirky Joe writes, "Hey, John. Hope you're keeping well in these dark times. I am. Thank you so much. So, Paddington 3 is happening. Studio Canal representatives have told Variety that they are working very hard on film 3 with the utmost craft and care. Although Paul King will not likely return to direct, he mentioned he wouldn't direct a 3, but he would be involved. I love that bear and look forward to seeing more, so I think this is good news." All right, thanks a lot for sending this in. And listen, whenever I talk about Paddington, this has to be mentioned. I remember when the first Paddington was coming out, and the trailer was okay. I mean, the trailer was cute. It was certainly cute. But, John Schnepp and I were both like, whatever. So anyway, John Schnepp and I go to the press screening of it, right? Just one of those things. It's not a movie we're really interested in, but we're going to go cover it. And both John Schnepp and I, the King of the Sweaties and I, walked out and went, "What the F? That was awesome. That was awesome. The Paddington is so good." And guess what? Paddington 2, just as good. Paddington 2, just as good. It is so amazing. I mean, seriously, these are two. It's not, the type of film that you figure people like us, like we like our, brutal violence. We want our gratuity. We love our filthy. We love our comic book movies. We love our sci-fi. Paddington, listen, I've said this before. I will say it again. I've been saying this for a long time. Long before they ever said they were going to do Paddington 3. I've always said, if they do a Paddington 3, and if it's on the same level as the first 2 Paddingtons, you are honestly talking about a trilogy that legitimately belongs in the conversation of the top 5 trilogies of all time.
That's just huge.
It's just that good. They're just that high quality. The charm and the heart and the warmth and the humor and the fun. It's just all there. And it's beautifully done. Anyway, this comes to us from the folks over at Variety who writes, "Paddington 3, a new entry in the beloved movie series, is in active development," representatives from Studio Canal have told Variety. "We can confirm Studio Canal is working very hard on film 3 with the utmost craft and care, as with film 1 and 2. Last week in an interview on BBC Radio 2's The Zoe Ball Breakfast Show, Paddington star Hugh Bonneville, that everybody remembers from Downton Abbey, said there was forward momentum on the project and that it was somewhere on the horizon." And again, this comes to us from Variety. I'll tell you what, I am so on board for this. I mean, if you had told me 1 week before seeing the first Paddington, "Hey, John, in a couple of years, we're going to be talking about Paddington 3. You're going to be talking about a potential top 5 greatest trilogy of all time," I would say you are...
Paddington's not really going to be on your radar.
You are smoking the good stuff if you are telling me that. If you are saying that, you are clearly on something. But it's so good. I cannot believe how excited I got about a movie about a stupid stuffed bear. I cannot believe it, but I am. I'm super excited for this. I think this sounds great. Aaron, you had a chance to hear about this. What do you think?
Well, as you know, I was watching the trailers for the first 2 Paddingtons before the show because I did not see them.
You're not alone. A lot of people haven't watched it because it doesn't look like it's for a lot of us.
But also, I think that one of my fatal character flaws, and I have many, I will admit, but one of my fatal character flaws is I have this this problem of categorizing animated films and films like Paddington with, the CGI characters. I feel like there's a part of me that judges, wanting to watch them as an adult. It almost feels like, oh, well, that's not something that you should be wasting your time with. That's for children. And I don't know where that voice comes from, because I realize that every single time that I watch an animated film or, a film like Paddington, it fills me with so much warmth and goodness and happiness. But meanwhile, I'm like, no, why isn't someone getting stabbed? Why isn't someone getting, killed? Why isn't someone breaking into the house? Why isn't someone crying or dying? And I realize, we can't all have sharp edges all the time. We have to, as film fans, and if we're going to say that we're film fans, we can't just want to watch one kind of movie or one kind of television show. It can't all be this serious, heavy, Oscar-worthy drama every single time, or like these badass, powerful, wild action movies all the time. It's really nice as a film fan to have your sharp edges, round out a little bit, and to watch a movie that just fills you with warm fuzzies and goodness, and to use one of my new vocabulary words, warms the cockles of your heart, which means ventricles. So that's where I feel like Paddington comes in. And I've been watching a lot of really hard stuff lately, stuff that makes me angry and, gritty. And I think that now I'm ready to start smiling a little bit more. I think we all need some more smiles times, as Tom likes to say. So this is actually something that I'm going to binge this weekend. Knowing that Paddington 3 is on the horizon, I'm going to go 1 and 2 back to back, and I'm going to snuggle with Joey, who looks like a bear anyway. But yeah, I mean, just from the first look of his face when he's looking at the 2 toothbrushes on the first trailer, trying to figure out what to do with them, and then just shoves them in his ears, I go, you're just so snuggly. So yeah, warm fuzzy time. Everybody, go out and warm those cockles of your heart.
It's nonsense how excited I can't believe I'm excited about a movie, third movie about a superhero. But there it is. Question is, guys, what do you think about this news about them doing a Paddington 3? Maybe you never did see, because honestly, it doesn't look like a film for a lot of us. So I would understand if you've never seen Paddington 1 or 2. If you have, are you excited about this idea of a third one? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3, shall we? And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Taylor R., who writes, "Hey, John, kind of cheating here a little bit since the Mortal Kombat trailer hasn't actually come out yet as I'm writing this. But I know it's going to come out before you start the Thursday show, so I wanted to get a head start and ask what you think of the new trailer. Thanks, and bring on the finish him." Not the filthy, the finish him. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, we have been waiting. We have been talking about and waiting and saying, where is this Mortal Kombat trailer? Where is this trailer? It's supposed to be out by now. This movie is coming out fairly shortly. What's going on with it? When are we going to see it? Then we got the character posters yesterday, and we found out we were going to get it today. It was supposed to come out at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, but instead it dropped even earlier than that. It dropped around 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we got our first look at this trailer. And let me tell you what my general feelings of the trailer are, okay? So let me get the bad stuff out of the way first, okay? Let me get the bad stuff out of the way. There are a few moments in this trailer that are they feel a little forced. And it kind of feeds into the silliness of it a bit. Well, I didn't need to hear Scorpion say, "Get over here," like he does in the video game. I didn't need to see that in the trailer. I'll be honest with you. I didn't need to see that in the trailer. So that's fine. Also, kind of like, I didn't like hearing the one line from Sub-Zero saying, "I am Sub-Zero." It's like, okay, it felt a little, on that level, it felt a little video game-ish. I mean, yeah. John, you do realize what Mortal Kombat is, right? Of course I do.
Well, also as if we couldn't figure out that he was Sub-Zero based on everything
else. Yes.
Right?
I mean, it was unnecessary. It was unnecessary. Although I will say, enforced lines of character lines from games and forcing them into the trailer, I will say Kano wins was I love the way he said it. Kano wins. I did love that. So there were parts of it that felt a little schlocky. There were parts of it that felt a little forced. There it is. But for a movie called Mortal Kombat,
right,
this was all those other things I said aside, and those other things are true, but that aside, this for a movie called Mortal Kombat, oh my God, this thing captured the vibe that I think everybody was wanting to see in a Mortal Kombat movie. I think that's the thing. It perfectly captured the vibe that people are wanting in this movie, from the brutal fatalities, the kind of obnoxious, over-the-top kind of action. I'm not going to lie, I gave out a little bit of a squeal. I'll bring this up on the screen. I gave up a little bit of a squeal when Goro started coming out with his arms out, the forearm on. I mean, it's like, I'm watching the trailer, it's like, where's Prince Goro? Where is he? Where is he? And then he pops out of nowhere and comes flying down on the dude.
That's the Makad Brooks role, right?
No, that's the giant orc-looking guy with 4 arms.
Oh,
who jumps
okay.
that
I was
thing.
thinking the Makad Brooks role with those like
No, that's the
mechanical...
Jax. No, that's Jax.
Got it. Okay.
So that
clearly I don't play the game.
I gotta say, my favorite shot in the trailer, and there were several good ones, like the flame fire dragon forming. That was really cool. A bunch of the fatalities were cool, but my favorite shot had to be Sub-Zero slices the guy, blood splatters into the air, slow-mo, freeze blood splatter into Spike, grab it and stab him with his own leaking blood. Kill him with his own leaking blood. And he grabbed that thing, and the camera angle was, I mean, from a cinematography point of view, it was beautifully shot too. It's like, boom, grabs the thing, stabs him.
I don't need a weapon. I will use your body as a
your
weapon.
Own blood to stab you to death. Yeah. That's as badass as it gets. So look, is this movie going to be great? Oh, I don't know. I believe there is a high possibility this could be really cheesy junk. I mean, it could be very, very bad. But if we're just talking about the trailer, the things that I think they could have done without, notwithstanding, this was a trailer that captured the DNA of what people were looking for in this trailer. I thought it looked great on that level. They put a lot of badass shots in it. And let's face it, a lot of people are not going into watching Mortal Kombat to watch, I don't know, to watch any sort of Othello. They're not going in to watch deep narrative. Mm-hmm. We're not going into Mortal Kombat with a cold guy whose name is Sub-Zero.
And even in the same genre, people aren't going into Mortal Kombat expecting it to be John Wick. Like, the bar is pretty low as far as video game movies are concerned.
Yeah, but for what it is, I was very, very impressed by the different looks, the different shots, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, a couple of the lines notwithstanding, maybe a little bit cheesy, but they understood what their audience was looking for. And they served it up on a big all-you-can-eat platter, and we're chowing down on it. It's rolling down our lips. We're getting it on our bibs. It's sitting on our pants, whatever it is. It's good. Anyway, Aaron, you had a chance this morning to watch this Mortal Kombat trailer. What did you make of it?
I loved it. And I was not expecting to love it, because I often find that films made from video games, these types of video games.
Oh, no, they always suck. They always suck.
Like, they always look contrived. I think that they always, a lot of times I find the graphics to be either so over the top that, and I don't want to say that they don't look natural, because obviously none of this looks natural, but they just look, it almost feels like I'm watching a video game. And if I want to watch a video game, I'll go on Twitch and watch that. If I want to see a movie, I want to see really high quality CGI, which is what I saw in the film, in the trailer. I love the fact that Hiroyuki Sanada, who I fell madly in love with during season two of Westworld.
Right.
As soon as I saw him in the trailer, I went,
Samurai World.
In Samurai World. Yeah. But as soon as I saw him in this trailer, I went, I'm in. I will go see this tomorrow, because I will see anything he's in. Not only is he an incredible fighter, but he's also an amazing actor, and just so beautiful to watch. His performances are stunning. I really like, for someone who's never played Mortal Kombat and is not into the world of Mortal Kombat, I really like the specificity of each of the characters. Like, I immediately knew that who each of the characters were. I
Right.
was like, I see Sonya Blade. I see Sub-Zero. I see Scorpion. I can tell you right now, Sub-Zero is going to be my favorite character. I mean, not just because of someone having the ability to kill you with your own blood. That's amazing. But also just all of they really look like they took the time to do his graphics in a way that that paint that picture for you. Like every time he came on and he did some cool thing of throwing ice crystals everywhere, I got very excited. Because we don't see that very often. I think the last character that I'm really remembering was January Jones and that god-awful X-Men, whatever that was. Yeah. And so, we see a lot of people throwing fire, and that's always cool, but I'm excited to see Sub-Zero and for a movie that I am not the target demographic of, I am very excited about this.
The other thing too I should mention here is that the original Mortal Kombat movie is all kinds of bad. I mean, it's all kinds of bad. But myself and a lot of people love it nonetheless. Like, look, we're not dumb. We know it's a bad movie.
So there was an original model. I was thinking that.
Yeah, there was the original Immortal, and then there was a terrible sequel. Oh, that came out. Oh, when I was in school. I mean, it was ages ago when it came out. But it had Christopher Lambert of the Highlander as Lord Raiden, which, like, even in that time, a bunch of us were like, Christopher Lambert, this European dude, is Lord Raiden? What? But at any rate, the original Mortal Kombat movie is all kinds of bad, but we love it. But here's the thing. The soundtrack of the original Mortal Kombat movie is seriously, I'm not talking about the score of a film.
Right.
I'm talking about the soundtrack. The soundtrack, and I say this without hyperbole, I think it's my all-time favorite soundtrack.
Really?
The soundtrack is thumping, it drives, it's powerful, like everything from the main Mortal Kombat theme to like Du Hast and all this kind of stuff. Like they just have a lot of stuff on it. And it was really, I was waiting to hear if they were going to put any kind of overtures of that in there. And sure enough, as the trailer was ending, you get that kind of a little, it's a subtle nod to it. Bum, instead of bum, 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 right? It goes bum, 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 like a little bit slow so you could recognize what it was going for. I wish they had played a little bit more into it. I would have liked to have heard one song from the original Mortal Kombat soundtrack. They didn't, and that's fine.
Yeah. It's like German death goth.
There's some of that in there too. So listen, guys, the question here is, did you have a chance to see the Mortal Kombat trailer? I thought there was a number of things about it that could have been left out, felt a little forced, felt a little cheesy. Sure, okay, fine. But really, this was the trailer fans were wanting to see. They put in great action. They put in some hype lines. They put in some great fatalities. As a trailer, it tells us what we can expect to see in this movie. Question, maybe it worked for you. Maybe it didn't. I don't know. But what do you guys think about it? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With all that down and out of the way, we're going to move on and start taking some of your live questions that you guys have been sending in. By the way, how do you send in a question for the live part of the show? It's simple. Simply use the tip link that's in the description of this video. It's right near the top. You'll see it down there. Click on that, or you can enter it in manually at streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's reasonable. And of course, you'll be supporting this show at the same time. And all of us involved with the John Campea Show, thank you guys very, very much for your support. All right, let's not waste any more time and get right into it over here. First up comes to us from Sasha, who writes, John, do you think that the speculation around the identity of WandaVision's aerospace engineer has been so hyped that any reveal will be seen as underwhelming? Not any reveal, but here's the thing. Yeah, we have all that between them in their press conferences and us in the fandom, including me, have hyped up this appearance. Who is this engineer that's showing up? That if it is, I hate to say it, but if it's anybody other than Reed Richards or anybody other than some other huge, didn't possibly see it coming kind of name, I think a lot of people are going to be a little bit disappointed. Like, it could be really good. Like some people suggesting Blue Marvel, who is actually, I think Blue Marvel's a little bit too powerful for the MCU, but there's a lot of different people at play here that it could be. But I feel like at this point, if it's anything other than Reed Richards or somebody else, it could be great. But I think at least momentarily, a lot of people are going to feel let down, even if it's a great cameo. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll find out soon enough. The show comes out tonight. Join us once again, guys. Let me see if I can bring this up again. Yes, join us. No, I lost it. I totally lost it. Never mind. But join us tonight. Oh, here it is. Again, for the pre-show. The pregame show, the WandaVision pregame show tonight here at 5 p.m., of course, Pacific Standard Time, and we'll talk about what we expect to see in tonight's show. All right. Thanks for that, Sasha. Next up, BMC writes, I'm just realizing how stacked March is for us genre fans. Season finale of WandaVision, the Snyder Cut, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Godzilla vs. Kong. Which one are you most hyped for? There is a lot of very fan favorite stuff coming out. Very excited. But I gotta tell you, the thing that I am excited for the most is Falcon and Winter Soldier. Don't get me wrong, I'm loving WandaVision. I am, but I have said from day one that out of all the upcoming MCU stuff, at least the Disney Plus stuff, War Machine, Hawkeye, Nick Fury, She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel, Loki, Moon Knight, all of them. The one I am looking forward to.
Those are all the shows that are coming out?
These are all shows coming
Wow.
out. All the MCU shows coming on Disney Plus. The one I think Loki might be next up. Anyway, the one I am looking forward to the most is Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Why?
I love these two characters. I
Okay.
love these two characters, and they are associated with my favorite MCU character, which is Captain America. Captain America is not my favorite comic book character, not by a long shot. But in the MCU, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Chris Evans' Captain America is my favorite character. And because these two guys are associated with him, it's just that. And you just know it's going to be more action-based.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to that. So that's the one
Where
thing.
does this fall in the timeline, though? Because obviously this is Falcon, and he's not yet the new Captain America.
I'm still not convinced he will be the new Captain America.
Oh, interesting.
He
Okay.
probably will be, but I'm not totally convinced yet.
So this is happening before where is this in the timeline?
This happens after Endgame. So
Okay.
so now Steve is now old man Steve.
Okay.
Now, where it falls in relation to, say, WandaVision?
Well, no. But if Steve is old man Steve and he's already passed the shield to Falcon to be Captain America,
Yeah, but the
are we just
government
not even
takes it away from him.
Oh.
The government takes it away from him, and they gave it to another guy with another name, and then Baron Zemo, who was the villain in Civil War, he's back. And,
Okay. Well, I want to eat my words because for months I said that Falcon and Winter Soldier that there was going to be some reveal that happens in Black Widow, and that Falcon and Winter Soldier would not. The reason why I kept getting pushed and that WandaVision was being pulled up was because there was some sort of timeline thing. Clearly,
you're not a lot of people thought that. I did too.
a lot of
most people thought that. So did I.
Here's the thing. I will be the first to toot my horn whenever there's tooting to be tooted, and I will also be the first to say I was wrong when clearly I was wrong. So, I'm curious to, and I think it's good that it will be a standalone and that it's not dependent on Black Widow's release, because God knows when that's going to happen now. But I'm actually more excited about seeing how WandaVision plays out. I've really
not to be.
I've really gotten into it, and I told you, like, the first 2 episodes, I was like, what's going on here? And now I see. I like a long game. I like planting seeds and letting people go, wait, that was a little weird. But not giving away the whole thing. I'm really excited to see how WandaVision plays out. And I'm really excited about the announcement of a season 2 of WandaVision, which everyone thinks is not going to happen. But
not going to happen.
I'm going to stand strong with that. There will be a season 2.
Let's move on here. Next up, we've got Alex L, who writes, "Hey, John, I would love to see this show grow and evolve with a Pat McAfee show type setup." Well, I already kind of did that twice. But anyway, but here's my question. Did you see Pietro's mom tattoo on his left shoulder? It's Evan Peters' real tattoo. Disney kept it. My theory is Agnes might be his mother. Listen, again, I think and I do it too, I think all of us do it. I think we find every little detail and we try to attach some big, massive meaning to it. Did you see that the color of her nails in that scene were red? Iron Man wears red. Iron Man's coming back. I mean, that's what we do.
Right.
We do that. I do it. But I think that might be a stretch, but I don't know. Maybe whatever. No, I didn't notice it, but I think that's cool if they let him keep it. All right, Patrick Conway writes, I'm excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier, but it's the Disney Plus show I'm most worried about. As someone who believes there is only one Captain America, and really also afraid that Bucky will be sidelined and made a jobber instead of him and Sam being true equals. Well, I mean, I don't think they'll do that. First of all, I am also of the mindset that there's only one Captain America. Steve Rogers is Captain America is Steve Rogers is Captain America is Steve Rogers. Like, you can pass a nickname on, but I don't care if you pass a nickname on to somebody else. I don't care if it's Bucky. I don't care if it's Sam. I don't care. They're not actually Captain America. They may use the nickname.
Right.
But Steve Rogers is Captain America to me. So I kind of agree with you on that. I don't think that name should be passed down, but I think it's probably what they're going to do. I'm not convinced on it yet, but whatever. I don't think they will make Bucky a jobber to Falcon. I don't think they're going to do that. Not to mention, straight up fight. Bucky rips Falcon to pieces because Falcon has no powers.
Yeah, he just has wings.
He's real good with them.
Sure.
Falcon is kind of like Iron Man in a way. Like, he's a regular dude who's got really good advanced technology that he's really good at using. And so he's badass. He's great. And I love that character. I love the Sam character ever since he popped up with On Your Left. And I mean, I don't mean that from the Endgame reference. I mean that from the Captain America Winter Soldier thing as Cap is pacing him on the track. I love this character, but yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. All right, let's keep moving here. Next up, the Skrull writes, "Hey John from Manila, I'm gonna say something controversial here. Ever since I watched Social Network years ago, there's something about Armie Hammer that didn't jive for me. Probably because he did his role in that movie too well, and I was right, allegedly. I mean, I don't know. Look, the Armie Hammer, I don't go into the TMZ bullshit on this show. So obviously there's controversy surrounding Armie Hammer, things that away from the movie screens and all that kind of stuff. I've always found him to be a tremendous actor. As a matter of fact, when I first saw Social Network, I thought it was twins they cast in the role.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right?
Well, they also, I mean, it was so well directed.
Oh, I mean, beautiful
to be able
shot,
to
yeah.
and shot. But also, it makes sense why someone would say, wow, he played that role too well. Armie Hammer grew up in tremendous wealth. I mean, his grandfather was a titan of industry. I mean, he wasn't really playing, that wasn't a stretch for him. That was his life. That was that kind of high I mean, just look him up. He comes from a great deal of wealth and privilege. So it would make sense, like, if anyone was going to be cast in that role, he would be perfect for it. But yeah, I do think he's a tremendous actor, everything else aside. But, we don't live in a world where people are just actors. People are also people. And if people's peopling gets a little too peopled, then that might affect your work, and we see it all the time. So, but yeah. Sad that that had to be the case for someone so talented. But
all right, next up we got Awesome Alan 1, who writes 1 of 6. Hey John, I, on cue for a Marvel fan, think I've cracked what's happening in WandaVision. Everybody does. Everybody thinks they've cracked.
Wow, good for you.
Wait, what?
Do you have any lotto numbers you can give me?
Oh, I know. So think what's happening in WandaVision. It's much bigger than we all think, and it involves Mephisto, Thanos, and the period between Infinity War and Endgame, as well as Mephisto's motivation. My theory is that Thanos' line, "The stones serve no purpose beyond temptation," wasn't solely talking about bringing everyone back from the snap. I think he was talking about beings who wanted to abuse the stone's power too. Well, he was talking about himself, really. He was talking about himself. There's nothing now but temptation for me to keep using. We see a scene where before Thanos destroyed the stones, Mephisto approaches him and tries to tempt him to use them further, maybe referencing Lady Death like Thanos' comic motivation. But Thanos wants, in his twisted view, life to thrive. So they argue, and Thanos then destroys the stones. Mephisto, following his comic motivations, where he tried to steal the stones from Thanos, attempts to do the only thing he can do to still get that power, and that's siphon it off of Wanda, feed on Yo magic. So Mephisto whispers in Wanda's ear that Vision's corpse is being desecrated. She breaks into Sword, finds his corpse, and Mephisto then arrives to strike a deal. He gives her the power to save him, and she accepts, leading to Westview. Mephisto takes Wanda's memory of him, thus the line, "I don't know how any of this started," and it is siphoning Wanda's power throughout the whole show. The kids in Quicksilver do exist and aren't evil, but they are distractions to keep Wanda lured into this world. All right, so there is a couple of things. There are a couple of things involved in that thing. There's a couple. Let me rephrase that. There are a couple of themes in there that I kind of agree with. Like ever since we saw the Yo Power or Yo Magic commercial, that was definitely something that made me start to think, a Nightmare could be involved here. I'm still not sold on Mephisto or Nightmare, but that commercial with the shark and Yo Magic, that was to me a little bit, that could potentially be a big game changer. And that made me a lot more open to the idea that probably a Nightmare, maybe a Mephisto in that sort of scenario. That made me buy more into it a little bit more. So there's that. I do believe episode 8, now it could be 7. I think it's going to be episode 8. I do believe we're going to get an entire episode of WandaVision that is flashback, that starts right from the beginning at the end of Endgame and then moves us to the event of Westview, so that we get a lot of the empty gaps filled in by a flashback episode. So I do believe that's coming. Now, whether we're going to see Mephisto talking to Thanos, whether we're going to see all this kind of stuff, I don't know. But I do believe we're going to get that sort of thing. And again, I don't agree with your overall premise, but I think thematically there are things in there that do make sense, and it's going to be interesting to see how they actually flesh all that out. So we'll keep our eyes open for it. Awesome, Alan. All right. Thanks a lot for writing in that theory in such detail as well. I appreciate that, man. Well done. All right. Next up, we got John Lisa who writes, I think Doctor Strange pulled Pietro from the multiverse. He could be using him for intel on how the hex started and how to stop it. He could have updated Pietro on this world's version of Pietro. Doctor Strange will be the big surprise leading into this movie. It makes no sense to me. Here's the thing, Aaron. It makes no sense to me. Why would Doctor Strange pull a different Pietro that looks nothing like her Pietro, who does not have the memories of her Pietro? What's the point of pulling that dude out? Why not just create an illusion? Why not just create an illusion or something like that in there? So I don't buy into that. Also, I would say, okay, go ahead before you lose your thought. What is it?
Unless her Pietro comes and fights this guy pretending to be Pietro.
Oh, didn't I say that I think there's a chance Aaron Taylor Johnson shows up in this show?
I think he does, because especially the way that she was being like, she's noticing, hey, you're kind of off. Like something's not tracking. And we already see that he's trying to manipulate her to get her to say certain things or do certain things. And it was established, hey, she recast Pietro. So it wouldn't be totally out of the realm of possibility for her Pietro to show up and be like, boom, sock it to me. I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a live show, guys. Sometimes it comes out and it's just a fart.
But no, I see what you're saying. And it's possible. Now, it is possible. The one of the reasons why I don't really believe that Doctor Strange is the big reveal is the same reason I don't think that like Spider-Man is the big reveal. Honestly, what's the big deal of Doctor Strange showing up? How's that a big deal? A current, ongoing, existing MCU character who's already actively in the MCU popping up in an MCU show. I don't see how that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool if it does, and I'm not saying it's impossible. It's absolutely on the table. It could absolutely happen. But I just don't see, how is that exciting? How is that a big deal? To me, it's a big deal if it's somebody we've never had here before, somebody who isn't in the MCU, somebody we don't expect to see pop up. So I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll see. All right, let's move on here. Next up, Plot Twisties writes, hey, John, spitballing the probability of a WandaVision Reed Richards reveal here. I think the only way it's Reed is if episode 7 is your speculated flashback episode And the reveal happens right at the end. If episode 7 is not a flashback, then they're going to have to deal with Monica's aerospace engineer very early in the episode, and thus it won't be Reed. But a flashback lets them save the reveal until the very end of the episode, and thus provides enough gravitas for a Reed Richards reveal any later than episode 7, and it's just not happening. I don't know if I agree with that. I think you could absolutely launch. You could in the first 10 minutes have. I mean, yes, the Pietro reveal, he's a fraud, but the Pietro reveal was done at the very end of that episode. That is stereotypically where you do your big surprise reveals. But I also don't think there's anything that says they couldn't do it because remember, there's only 3 episodes left.
Yeah.
Right? So if they want to bring Reed Richards in, and I ain't saying it's Reed Richards, be very clear, but if they do want to bring Reed Richards in and you want to use him a little bit, then you better start pretty soon.
Right.
Because
yeah,
I
you
do
can't
believe
reveal someone and then all of a sudden be like, okay, we're done with that. We did the reveal and now we're done. No, you have to go somewhere with that reveal.
I agree. So I think they can. I think they could do it at the beginning of the episode. I think they could do it at the end. By the way, just because we saw Monica and Jimmy on their way to meet the engineer, that doesn't mean that scene has to happen at the beginning. They could still be on their way. We could basically, the next episode could start with Darcy. Darcy is now inside the hex. We could start with her and the reality, and then you can get to that at the end of the episode. So all I'm saying is it's all on the table. It could happen at the beginning, could happen in the middle of the episode, could happen at the end, doesn't have to be a part of a flashback, could be a part of a flashback. I'm just saying, let's not rule anything out. That's all I'm saying. Let's not rule anything out.
Did we see Darcy once she got into?
No, she was the only one we didn't see.
I'm
once
really
she went
curious to see what getup she's going to be in. Like what kind of, because they all become these characters.
Well, they're all at the circus. So you got the helicopters, the hot air balloon, you've got the hot dog truck, the vans, trucks, we've got some of the agents become clowns.
Well, it was the circus in the last episode. We don't know what's going to be in the next one.
Well, as the hex passed over, it all turned into a circus. But if they jump now forward to the 2010s, maybe it's something else.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I'm really excited to see like what she finds herself in. Like, what am I wearing? I'm excited. Like how the guy in the hazmat suit becomes a beekeeper.
There is a theory that even though it's a show I never watched, we talked about it on one of the last episodes. There's a theory because it's 2010s. Because it's sitcoms.
Oh, no.
That we are going to see Darcy. We're going to see Kat Dennings in her Two Broke Girls waitress.
Yes, that would actually be hilarious.
Oh, I think there's a possibility they do that.
I think it'd be a really nice wink and nod.
All right, let's move on here. Next up, we got Justin Player who writes, stop me if you've heard this theory. I can pretty much guarantee you I could stop you now because we've heard all the theories. But I can't help but notice the attention on the drone covered in Wanda's magic. Is it just me, or does it look strangely similar to the Blackbird X-Jet that the X-Men use? No, I don't think that. But what I do think you're onto there, Justin, is remember, that thing is still covered in her residual power, right? You still see the effects of her power on it. And then we saw Director Hayward say, I want a full write-up on that immediately. So they're studying that. And I do think that's something they discover in the residual power on that thing. Because you're right, they did focus the camera on that thing. Even in the next episode, they show them specifically bringing it in on the table and bringing it into the headquarters. And he says, I want to work up on that. I would not doubt for a second, Justin, that you're absolutely on to something there. And I think that whatever they discover about it is going to play a factor moving forward. All right, next up. We got Jeff from Miami who writes, John, been a bit of a Leo DiCaprio binge. Question, what is your favorite Leonardo movie? My personal favorite has to be Catch Me If You Can. Catch Me If You Can, directed by Steven Spielberg and also starring the great Tom Hanks. That movie's great. I just watched again the other night, what's it called again? Wolf of Wall Street. Hard not to say that one.
Yeah, he's really good in that.
I just talked the other day, everybody hates this movie, but I love it because I see it as part 2 of Kiefer Sutherland's Three Musketeers, and that's Man in the Iron Mask.
Oh.
I know everybody hates that one. The Aviator's fantastic.
Basketball Diaries.
Oh, he was so good in Basketball
good in
Diaries.
that.
Oh, to go back to his first Academy Award nomination,
What's Eating Gilbert Grape. And he was supposed to do Tom will know the name of it because he tells me this story. He was supposed to do a studio film, and I forget which one it was. It was a huge studio film. He was going to be the star of the studio film, but it was kind of like a cheesy, not something that not very highbrow. And he got the script for What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and he was like, "No, I'm doing this instead." And they go, "No, you're not. You're not going to pass up a studio film and the studio paycheck to do this tiny little independent film that's never going to see the light of day." And he was like, "No, I'm doing this movie." And he passed up the big payday for What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. I mean, for me though, it has to be The Departed. The Departed, because first of all, The Departed is a remake of an Asian film called Infernal Affairs, which is my all-time favorite cop movie. The Departed won Best Picture at the Academy Awards, won Marty Scorsese his first directing Academy Award. I love, and then of course you got to talk about Titanic. You got to talk about Django. I think Django might be my second favorite movie of his. But
and also,
yeah, I'm gonna say Departed.
hello, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, we just had. What is your favorite Leo movie?
You know what? I think that it would probably be. I think. As much as the feminist in me hates the Wolf of Wall Street, it's a phenomenal film, and he does a brilliant job. I mean, apparently, the whole scene where he's falling out of the car or trying to get into the car but falling out of it.
But he remembered it one way and then it actually happened another way.
Apparently that whole thing was improv. They didn't know exactly how they wanted, and he just did it, and it was brilliant. Yeah.
So good. And by the way,
he apparently really hurt his back doing that. He injured himself to the point where it actually caused problems for the rest of the filmmaking. He had a back injury from doing that scene.
In Django, he actually cut himself in that scene with the glass. That wasn't planned. That just happened during when he slices his hand open, and they just kept going, and they just kept going. It's amazing. By the way, a couple other people in the chat mentioning other ones we should mention. Pancho's mentioning Inception. Obviously, that's a great one.
Oh yeah.
Sam is mentioning Blood Diamond, which he also did with what's the name of the actor?
Joan Johansson.
Damon Hansu. Jaimon Hansu.
Did I just say that?
Did you say something Johnson?
I said I mispronounced.
I didn't. I thought you said another name. I totally heard you say another
name.
Okay.
That's okay. I think that I probably butchered it. I think I butchered his name. How do you pronounce his name?
Jaimon Hansu.
Jaimon Hansu.
Yeah. Oh, and that Wrestling Hound puts in also Shutter Island. That's another really good one. So yeah, there's a lot of really good Leo DiCaprio. Okay, William Stewart writes, one of the things I really took notice of in the Hollywood episode is during the earlier scenes with trick-or-treaters and Wanda is talking with the neighborhood watch as Frankenstein, that was Herb, there is a masked figure in a black robe staring directly at Wanda. Listen, I brought that up. Let me see. I don't know if I can find it here. I actually, in the WandaVision post-game show that we did, I actually brought that up. Let me see if I can find it here for you guys. Yeah. Let me get it up here. Okay, so this is the image here, and you can see this guy right here. I brought up this image before. That dude in the background, unmoving, staring right at Wanda, even as Wanda kind of looks back at him. I mean, that's one thing. Now, of course, it could just be a marionette or whatever you call it, like a puppet or a
marionette,
or something like that, a mannequin or something like that that's dressed up. It could totally be that. It could be, or it could just be some dude on Halloween trying to.
Yeah, they have a lot of Easter eggs.
Yeah, but it could be. Because they didn't just turn the camera and focus on him once; they did it twice. So they could go back to that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right, but you're not the only one to notice that, man. You're not the only one who noticed that. Okay, next up, we have, where are we at? Chris Pascuzzi writes, hey, John and Co. Hope you are all well. WandaVision theory time. Since WandaVision, Loki, Spider-Man 3, and Doctor Strange 2 are connected storyline, I do not recall them saying Loki is a part of that storyline. From what I recall, Kevin Feige said WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, and Doctor Strange 2, unless you guys in the chat remember it differently, but I do not recall him ever mentioning that Loki is a part of the storyline. I don't believe he is. Anyway, let's see. Our connect story. How come no one has mentioned the casting of Richard E. Grant in Loki? What if he is the cameo at the end of WandaVision? Thoughts? Well, other than Robert Meyer Burnett, who Robert E. Grant is one of his absolute favorite actors in the world, Robert E. Grant showing up is not your Luke Skywalker level cameo popping in there. I mean, let's be honest. And plus, I really don't think Loki is connected, other than the fact that it's in the MCU like everything else. It is not a part of that one story arc that involves WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, and Doctor Strange 2. So that's probably why, Chris. All right, next up. Roll of the Egg writes, hi, John and Co. I used to think Hayward was a total jerkwad. Now I think of him as what I call the myopically dedicated official, a trope of sorts. They refuse to remove their tunnel vision goggles. Love your show. Await a quote that I can misconstrue. Okay, so here's the thing. I have said about Hayward that while being a dick, everything he has said is actually true.
Right.
Everything he points out in the arguments, everything he points out in the staff meetings, all the things he brings up are actually true and not irrational for somebody to see it from that point of view. He's just a big dick. Kind of like Thunderbolt Ross. Thunderbolt Ross doesn't want the destruction of humanity. He wants the protection of Earth. He wants the safety of humanity. He's just kind of a dick the way he goes about it. But he is technically one of the good guys. I just think Hayward's going to turn out as going to be a good guy. And I believe in this episode, since only Hayward, Monica, and Jimmy got away from the expanding hex, I think we're going to see the three of them working together.
Yeah, I do too.
So what do you think? Where are you thinking about him right now?
I think that myopic is a very good way to describe that character. He's singularly focused, and it also shows part of the problem of being singularly focused, that even if you have the absolute best intentions, if you are unwilling to work with other people and work with others around you and, be open to different suggestions, you're gonna hit some roadblocks, whereas, because you're right, what he's saying is absolutely true, but he's so singularly focused that the way that he wants it done is the right way without being willing to open up his the possibility of working with others, that I would love to see that character arc of him realizing, okay, we're all trying to get to the same destination, so maybe let's combine our map guides. And my way might have some great ideas, but there's also other ideas that I can incorporate into this. So I think that that's how his character is going to get the redemption.
And by the way,
that it needs to complete that arc.
Yeah. And by the way, he very well could be a villain. We may find out. It just feels like they're making it so obvious.
Yeah,
they're making him the mean guy. It just seems
the
so
mean
obvious.
guy's not the villain.
I mean, right? So maybe they do. Maybe that's a double misdirect. Maybe it's a reverse psychology misdirect.
Sure.
Could be. I wouldn't put anything by Kevin Feige right now. All right. Sir Ivan Bennett writes, "Hey John, my theory. Monica isn't meeting Reed Richards. She's meeting Adam Brashear, aka Blue Marvel. I was just mentioning Blue Marvel. Look it up. They are dating in the comics. Again, that doesn't really mean anything, right? Thanos' main motivation in the comics was Lady Death, and that had nothing to do with it. So I also think Blue Marvel's a little bit overpowered for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so they could do him a different way. But here's the thing. Nobody knows Blue Marvel. Nobody knows Blue Marvel. So you can't, so it could be, but if it is, then that's kind of a bait and switch with this whole idea that it's going to be this big cameo that's going to make everybody go, what? Because nobody knows who Blue Marvel is, except for that very small percentage of people who actually read the comics. So, but hey, there's a reason I brought him up earlier. It's a possibility. So let's see. All right, next up. Richard Fairhurst writes, WandaVision episode 5 covered the 80s and 90s. Intro montages, mixed family ties, 82 to 89. Growing Pains, 85 to 92. And Full House, 87 to 95. Family is forever. Kids solve pain by growing. Crying too young to keep dog dies. And household expands by adding an uncle. I'm not really quite sure what you're getting at, Richards. I don't think it was an amalgamation. I think they were clearly in the 80s. Yes, a couple of those shows did overlap into the 90s, but it really did feel like they were firmly keeping that very, very much 80s to me. But thematically, you're right about that, Richard. You are right about that thematically. All right, next up, Roll the Egg also writes, wow. I listened to your heartfelt words on how you love what you're currently doing. Be proud to have done AMC's Movie Talk, the first film-related podcast in the entire world. Shouted by Ned Beatty. Love your guest hosts and Kimberly Rock. So yes, Kimberly is my co-host on the companion videos. She comes in and does the companion videos with me. It makes it a lot easier for me to do those shows, and she has been great. And I appreciate that Roll of the Egg very, very much. All right, next up. Jake writes, hey, John, I'm hoping we are now going into an era of having a lot of video game movies that finally don't suck. What is a video game you'd personally want to see turned into a movie/TV show that has not yet been announced? None. Now, don't get me wrong. That's not me saying I don't want any of them, but I don't have it. Look, because it comes down to this, and I know this is the totally unpopular thing to say. One of the main reasons, if not the main reason, that video game movies have never worked, hopefully up until now, is that video games are not made for narrative storytelling.
Right.
They incorporate narrative storytelling. Some of them do it very well. They are made for gameplay. They are made for that engagement. And now we've been in a phase for the last few years where video games more and more are leaning into narrative. And that's why we get like the Last of Us games that are just, from a narrative point of view, the Last of Us games are fucking nominal. They are phenomenal. The God of War narrative was so good. We are getting into these narratives now where they're getting better and better. But really, there's no video game that I've ever looked at outside of this most modern, like maybe Last of Us and things like that. There's never been a video game that I look at and go, that should be a movie. Like if they make it into a movie and it's awesome, great. I was very excited about the Warcraft movie. I was very excited about Assassin's Creed. Those turned out.
We're very excited about Super Mario Brothers. That turned out great.
Very excited about Super Mario Brothers. So yeah, no, there's never been one that now that doesn't mean I'm not open to them doing them, and we've got a number of them on the horizon coming. But there never has been a game that I've looked at and gone, that needs to be a movie. I've never personally felt that way. Have you ever had a video game that you've been familiar with? I know you're not a huge gamer, but a video game that you've always thought that would make an interesting film?
John, the last gaming platform that I owned was called Intellivision.
I had an Intellivision.
That dates me for sure.
My uncles had an Intellivision. When they would babysit me, they would bring it over, and that's why I would love when Uncle Paul and Uncle Doug would come over and babysit me.
That's the only one, because it was when we lived in Korea, and I think my parents realized that my brothers spent so much time playing the Intellivision that they were like, yeah, we're not going to have any more video games in our house. So I would have to ride my bike like down through the ditch and past the library to my friend's house to play Super Mario Brothers, and then it just, it's like I'm not going to ride my bike that far to play video games, so I never got into them. So I'm the wrong person to ask this for sure, but I do see that from a financial standpoint, it is just a ravenous fan base that loves the video game so much. And obviously, there's so much money to be had there. And Hollywood is always looking for ideas that are going to make money. And if you have a recognizable name that's going to pull in a lot of people. I mean, it's the same reason why they turned that god-awful book 50 Shades of Grey into a franchise, because I didn't read it, but people were reading it. It's the reason why the Harry Potter. So much money. So anything that can get that kind of fan base, anything that can make seventh grade kids want to sit down and read an entire series of Harry Potter books, they're going to go, okay, well, if they're willing to sit down and read the book, they're going to be willing to sit down and obviously
go to the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
But obviously the difference is that's narrative to narrative, but Hollywood follows the money. And if the money is in video games, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's already, as these video games are being developed, if they're going, okay, let's think about the long-term development of this game into an ultimate film franchise. So let's put more storytelling in it, which is why you're seeing a lot of these video games now having more cinematic themes and more narrative storylines.
All right. So next up will be Jeff, but we're going to take a little bit of a break right now. I got to go refill my drink and everything. And Aaron's got a long drive back to LA coming up. So Aaron and Joey, thank you so much for being here. Where can people follow you and your adventures online as you grab Joey?
Goodness. Yes, you can follow us on at Aaron L. Cummings on Twitter and Instagram. And sometimes I post photos of Joey and videos of her as well. But yes, come visit. And we would love to say hi. And again, please, if you have any ability to do anything that can in any way help anybody in Texas, do it. Call and check on your friends and neighbors. And until next Thursday, it's nap time.
Oh, Joey, I love Joey. All right, guys, listen, we are going to take just a short break here. So if you will indulge me, talk amongst yourselves, go take a bathroom break, whatever it is you need to do. Hang tight, everybody. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. All right, everybody, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence as I went and refilled up the old drink. So thank you for that. Now, let's get right back to it, shall we? We got a whole bunch of stuff to still get through. So let's keep right on rolling here. The next up is going to be from Jeff. And Jeff writes, where'd he go? I thought I heard that Disney Plus and Netflix provide global numbers and does not give just US numbers. If HBO Max is only in the US, their numbers will be a lot lower. What do you think? I mean, that is obviously the case. I mean, HBO Max is not rolled out worldwide yet. They're only in certain markets right now, much like Disney Plus was. Well, Disney Plus still isn't rolled out in all the markets, let's be honest. But just like Disney Plus was, when they rolled out, they were only in limited amount of markets. A lot of people get mad at HBO saying, why aren't you launching in all these places? Well, the same thing happened with Disney Plus. They didn't roll out in all the places at the same time. Look, HBO had a choice, just like Disney Plus had a choice. You can either make everybody wait until they're able to get all the licenses and all the rights and all the territorial stuff all settled out and then launch, or you can launch where you can, particularly in your main market, which is the North American market. And Simildon sends in a super chat badge. Thank you for that, man. Appreciate that. And then roll out as you go. And I know it's frustrating that particularly if you live in a territory where not everything is out yet, but you got to cut them some slack. You got to cut them a little bit of slack. But yes, their numbers are even paling in comparison to like Disney Plus US numbers. They are way behind right now. They're not where they wanted to be yet, which to me is complexing because HBO, to me, is still the best streaming service. I still think HBO Max is the best streaming service. Now, that could change very quickly once we see Falcon and Winter Soldier, because if they now have Mandalorian and WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, and they start crushing it with all that, maybe that starts to change. But as of right, I mean, HBO has terrific content. I don't know why more people haven't signed up for it. I'll be honest with you. I have no idea why. They have great content. All right, next up. RPG with DBJ writes, the core essential value of the X-Men, the uncertainty of adolescence, that's not a core thing. That's more of an auxiliary thing. Anyway, the temptation of power, again, not a core thing. That's more of a side issue. The suffering of the marginalized, absolutely, that is one of the core things. And the sorrow of the unfulfilled life. Superpowers, mutations, and X genes are a side effect, a flashy distraction. I'd say the core elements, though, if you want to know what the core main DNA aspect of the X-Men are, you go no further than Stan Lee. And Stan Lee always says it was an allegory of basically racial inequality in America. He said basically your Magneto and Professor X are archetype representations of the varying philosophies of Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And the whole idea about like racial equality in America, that's what the allegory is. That's what Stan Lee always said it was about. And it is there. And then the natural that some people are just naturally born differently than others. And hence, mutation, the next evolution of the human race with mutants. I mean, that's really your core. That is your core. Anyway, but all these other things you mentioned, RPG, absolutely, those are definitely important aspects of the X-Men as well. Let's see. Next up, WandaVision writes, hey, John, big fan of your work. Thank you so much. In your last show, you said that there are whispers that Warner Brothers didn't like the Snyder Cut, but some of them liked it very much. Where did you hear this from? Do you have any links to articles reporting the story? I'm not going to tell people where I heard it from. I didn't tell you when I heard before anybody else, and I told all of you that Ben Affleck was out as Batman, and for 2 years people called me a liar until it finally came out that he was actually gone. I don't tell people where I hear things from. No. But by the way, just to be clear, with this Warner Brothers stuff, I'm not the only one who knows that. I mean, you look over any of the main trades, they all talk about it as well. So it's not just me. I mean, it's not like only John has this exclusive. No. I am one of many, but it is all over the place. You can go find that anywhere else that you want. All right, next up, Willow writes, your what do they do rant about hot toys was great. I completely agree with you about the comparison to expensive jewelry. How many hot toys do you currently have and which ones are they? I currently have 4. And the reason I only have 4 is because I cannot afford to buy a 5th that will then inspire me to buy 10 more. So I currently have 4. I've got, I don't have them all out right now, but the ones I have out over here right now, I have my Boba Fett, I have my Jor-El, and I have my Alien Queen. The Alien Queen from Aliens. Those are the ones I have out right now. Now, I do also have a lot of, I have a lot of Hasbro Star Wars Dark Series things because my wife used to work at Hasbro. And I have a lot of Funko Pops. I love Funko Pops. I just look at them and they make me happy. They make me smile. They make me feel like I want to be creative. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's that. All right. Next up. Where are we? War Doctor writes, "Hey, John and crew. I've been considering getting into acting or script writing. Those are 2 very, very different things. I've been considering getting into acting or script writing. What is the best way to go about getting started for somebody who has never written or has only acted in their middle school production of 12th Night? Thanks." Well, listen, I'm not an actor, so I'm not the person to give you advice on that. I mean, listen, to me, it's the same as anything with filmmaking. You want to act? Great. Pick up a script and start acting it out. There you go. You're acting. With writing, how do I get started in writing? Sit down and start writing something. I mean, that may sound thanks a lot, Captain Obvious sort of thing, but everybody misses it. Sit down, write. It doesn't matter if you know what to write. Just sit down and write. Doesn't matter if it's a bunch of gibbly goop. Doesn't matter. Sit down and write. You want to start writing? Here's the thing, and I'm not saying you do this, War Doctor, but this is what I often hear from a lot of people. Is that a lot of people say, how do I get going in this? What they're really asking is, they're not really asking, what effort and work do I need to put in to achieve what I want to achieve? People, when they ask stuff like that, normally what they're asking is, how do I just get it? You know, what's the button I press that I now get to be an actor, or I get to be a screenwriter, or I get to be, and it's funny, like when I would do seminars about like developing like YouTube channels, whatever, everybody always asks the wrong first question. The first question people always ask is, how do I get more How do I get more viewers? How do I get more subscribers? You know, I want to have 10,000 subscribers. What do I need to do to get 10,000 subscribers? And like I'm always saying, you're asking the wrong questions. Because if your first question is, how do I make more money or get more viewers? Then this isn't the right field for you. If you're not first thinking about, how do I increase the appeal of my content? How do I make my content better? How do I improve as a presenter? How do I determine or evaluate if I'm even good at this? Like, you can always tell who's in there and who's not. And Simildon also sends in another super chat badge. Thank you for that, man. And it's always about that. But anyway, War Doctor, to your point, stop waiting around for something magical to happen and just start doing something. Pick up a script and start acting it out. Do it in front of a camera. Then get a couple of friends together and say, hey, let's record ourselves acting out this scene, these 10 pages from this one script. You want to write? Start writing. Just start writing. Doesn't matter what it is. Just start writing. And then pick up a book or two about, the format of writing and the details of screenplay writing, but just start writing. So yeah, just start putting in the work, man. Just start putting in the work. All right, next up, JL Rodas writes, "Hi, my friends. Am I the only one assuming that the things we've seen passing outside of the Hex have taken place along just one night? I find it kind of obvious, but I wonder, what do you think?" Well, I don't know if it's all been along one night, but Rob and I were talking about this on the John Campea Show the other day. I think we forget that I think only like 2 days have passed. In all of, in the show time, I think only like 2 days have passed. For us, it's been 6 weeks. But I think in the show, it's only been a couple of days. So, yeah, I think that's important. All right, next up. What do we got here? We got The Wakandans Forever writes. Hold on a second. I'm just going to do something here. Okay, The Wakandan Forever writes, "John, now I see why you got Kimberly for the show. She likes comic book movies, knows martial arts, and she's even good looking. Yes, Wakandans can have crushes too. Seriously, you guys have good chemistry. Great addition to the show, Wakanda Forever." Yeah, Kimberly has been doing a great job. Has been doing a really, really great job helping me out with the companion videos. I really need I really needed someone else to come in, help me out with the reading of questions. It helps get me through them a lot easier, and I enjoy it a lot. I enjoy having her a lot. She's really, really great. All right, next up, we've got Randall McMurphy writes, it's the year 3045. Humanity has conquered the stars. In the one of the colonies in Mars, a new Avengers movie is now out in theaters. It has broken all 567 previous Avengers box office records with $5.5 trillion. I mean, it goes to the whole conversation about the fact that some people wonder, how long will the Avengers go? How long will the MCU go? Right? How long will the Avengers go is a question. And I actually don't think it's going to go on for too much longer. I don't think it's going to go on for too much longer. Now, by too much longer, I don't mean 6 more months, but I mean maybe another 7 or 8 years. I think maybe another 7 or 8 years, maybe a little bit more, and then like maybe 10. But at some point, they're going to have to put on the brakes and then do a reset. I mean, even the comics themselves do that, right? I mean, even look at DC Comics, like with the New 52 and Rebirth and stuff like that. It's at some point, you just kind of have to put on the brakes and say, okay, time to refresh, trying to start again. And again, that's not going to happen like imminently. That's not going to happen in the next 2 years or even in the next 5 years. But I think 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now, I think they'll probably do that. We'll see. All right, next up. Randall McMurphy also writes, the year is 3045, the amazing $5.5 trillion record-breaking box office. After hundreds and hundreds of superhero movies, a persistent reporter is still going after the age-old question, is the superhero fatigue finally here? And this is funny, by the way, Winter Jedi sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Winter Jedi. This, I swear to God, this has been a thing that has constantly come up since my AMC Closet days. I'm not kidding. I remember going back to the AMC Closet days and addressing questions about, is superhero fatigue now spinning? And Smilodon also sends another super chat badge. Thank you, Smilodon. There has been, like for 10 years, every year, the question, superhero movie fatigue is setting in now. And it's like, no, it's not. Yes, it is. People are starting to get tired of the superhero. This is like 8, 9, 10 years ago. And every year, without exception, there is always, every year, the question is now when superhero fatigue setting in? Yeah, now is when superhero movie fatigue is setting in. And more superhero movies come out and they keep succeeding. And I keep telling people, there is never going to be superhero movie fatigue until we start getting a succession of superhero movies. And Luis Maya sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Luis. Until we start to get a very tangible succession of really bad comic book movies. When that happens, then you're going to start to see it. But as long as these movies come out and they delight and entertain and excite the audiences, it ain't going to slow down. It doesn't matter if it goes on for 50 years. It doesn't matter. If they continue to delight and excite and entertain the audience, people aren't going to get tired of it. People start to get tired of it once the quality starts to lapse. And I would contend that we are still in the midst of the maturation of the comic book genre. We're still in the process of the maturation. It is still becoming. 15 years ago, we never would have gotten a movie like Logan. We never would have gotten a movie like Logan. In a different era, we never would have gotten a movie like Man of Steel. And we certainly never would have had this build-up event like Endgame. It just wouldn't have happened. But it's still developing and it's still growing. So until we start to get a long success, like a really like 5, 6, 7 movies in a row, comic book movies come out and they're just all bad, I don't think this fatigue is ever going to set in. They will have to reset at some point, but it won't be from fatigue if, and this is the huge if they continue putting out quality content that delights, excites, and entertains the audience. All right, next up. Randall also writes, last week I went to the theater to watch Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring, which is never a bad thing to do. Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring in IMAX 4K. Christ, what an experience. How awesome is that? How awesome is that those movies still hold to this day? The 4K and IMAX sound and picture truly give it new life. Listen, this is one of the reasons why there is simply no replacing the theatrical experience. There's no replacing the theatrical experience. You can watch Lord of the Rings at home, and that's great. You watch Lord of the Rings on the big screen, that is something different. That is something very, very different. And Michael Giles sends in a super chat badge. Thank you, Michael. That is something very, very different. And to see Lord of the Rings, like whether it's the Battle of Helm's Deep or whether it's, the final big battle at Gondor or whatever, it's just, watching it in a theater is just a different experience. And I'm glad you were able to experience that, Randall. All right, Alan writes, hey, John and Rob. Rob's obviously not here today. What do they do? After hearing John's passionate speech about hot toys, makes me want to get myself one. Where can I buy them from? What websites? And are there any you would recommend as a starter toy? Well, I mean, honestly, I would say if you've never gotten into some collectible stuff, start less expensive. Start with things like, who are the ones that make my Deadpool? There's a company, my Deadpool figures, they're less expensive, but I would start with Funko Pops. I mean, Pops are a great starter because you can get between $8 and $12 and you can get a bunch of them and then graduate on your way up. Where do you buy hot toys? Now, I'm lucky. I have a store not far from where I live, or at least where I used to live in Burbank, that carries all these collectibles, including a lot of hot toys. And Rob has a website that he goes to, and if you guys in the live chat, if you guys know a good website you can go to actually buy, like you can go to the official Hot Toys site, but when you go there, you can only pre-order their upcoming new stuff. I don't think you can order older stuff. But if you guys know, what is there's a website that's not associated with Sideshow and Hot Toys, that actually sells like all these Big Bad Toy Store. Thank you, Kevin Yu. Big Bad Toy Store. So search online for Big Bad Toy Store, and you should be able to find a lot of stuff like that there. Again, the problem with the official site is that you can't go and get the older stuff. It's only what's the brand new stuff, right? So anyway, yeah, Big Bad Toy Store. Go and check that out. All right, next up, Capri Grant writes, so the question of, why doesn't Sword get the Avengers? Keeps coming up, and the answer is they legally can't due to the Accords. Oh, no, they can. They can. Hayward would have to petition the UN panel, and they'd have to review/debate, etc. Besides, most heavy hitters are gone. But they can do it, right? Like, listen, you have to assume the Sokovian Accords were clearly put back into effect. They were obviously suspended for a while, but they're put back into effect. But especially after the events of Infinity War and Endgame, the Sokovian Accords are structured in such a way that there can be rapid response. Like if there's something that needs the attention of the Avengers, it's not something that would go into a debate for 3 or 4 days. If it needs the Avengers, that means there is imminent threat. So yeah, they probably have to get on a conference call with some people, but I bet you within minutes that panel, whatever it is with the Sokovian Accords, can give approval. So all it would take is Hayward to get on the phone with Thunderbolt Ross and say, we need the Avengers. This is what's happening. Send the information to Ross. Ross gets on a teleconference with everybody for a couple of minutes. They say, yeah, send in a couple of Avengers to go and take a list. Send in, get a hold of Hawkeye. Get a hold of Dr. Strange, whoever else is involved with them at this point. I don't know who's actually involved, but there are still people they can call. Okay, let's move on. Somebody's saying that I missed a question. Did I? I got Alan's question. I got Randall's question. I got Wakandan Forever's question. I got JL. So it looks like I got all of them. If I did, email me at John at the John Campea Show with the question that I missed, and I'll make sure I get it into the next show. All right, next up is Canadian Singing Posty writes in, one of two. Hey, John. I agree with you about the Gina Carano situation. Your analysis reminds me of that altercation with the Canadian Tenors, now the Tenors, who sang at the Major League Baseball All-Star Game in 2016. Changed the words to "Oh Canada" to say "All Lives Matter," which hurt the group. All Canada, and guess what? All Canada and Canada, and guess what? He was let go of the group. I actually personally know 2 of the 3 current members. Loving your WandaVision marathons. Great company when doing my route. Well, thank you so much for that, Canadian Singing Postie. I'll be honest with you. I have no record. I don't watch baseball. I watch the playoffs and the World Series. Other than that, I don't watch baseball. To me, it's a game, not a sport. Just like curling. I know that pisses off a lot of Canadians when I say that. Curling is not a sport. It's a game. Sorry, it is. It's a game. It's a great game. It's a game that takes a lot of skill, but it's a game. Anyway. John, what's the difference? I don't know. I'm just making up a difference in my head. Anyway. I'm not familiar with that situation at all. So I can't really give any commentary on it because I don't really know. But yeah, the Gina Carano situation, as unfortunate it is, it's a situation she did to herself. She was warned multiple times. That's the thing. You know, some people will still say to me, but John, you know, Pedro Pascal said some things, they didn't fire him. You know what the difference between the Pedro Pascal situation and hers is? They told Pedro Pascal to stop, and he stopped. Isn't that novel? John, Letitia Wright said some controversial things, and they didn't fire her. Because you know what the difference between the Letitia Wright situation and the Gina Carano situation is? Disney said, we don't want to be associated with what you're doing, so she stopped. Isn't that novel? I mean, that's the difference between those 2 situations. That's the difference between those 2 situations. Anyway, Caleb writes, just watch Shame 2011 with Michael Fassbender, and Bring On the Filthy is the only way to... Yes, Shame is a very, very filthy, filthy movie with Michael Fassbender. Make no mistake about it. Bring On the Filthy, the only way to describe it, but still very well done and a great character study of a seriously effed up person. Fassbender probably should have been nominated, in my opinion. What do you think? He might have been. He might have been nominated for that. I can't remember exactly. Michael Fassbender may have been nominated for that, or maybe just a joke was made about his performance at the Academy Awards. I cannot remember, but yes, The Shame is a wonderful movie. It is a deeper movie too. It's deep, but it is also all kinds of filthy. It is all kinds of filthy. It's my favorite kind of movie. Totally filthy, but totally an awesome motion picture at the same time. I love it. If you haven't seen it, it's really good. One of Michael Fassbender's better performances, actually, out of all the great performances he's given. So I'm glad you had a chance to check that out, Caleb. Next up. Unfortunately, Anonymous writes, okay, John, I'm wondering if we have a Warner Brothers, I'm wondering if we have a Warner Brothers I'm still Batman situation. You said once you wasn't comfortable having in-studio guest yet. We love Aaron's back, but how is newbie Kimberly in before Chris Carr? Is she doing a quiet departure? Did she have COVID? Okay, guys, I don't know how many times I have to say the exact same thing about Chris Carr, but I will say it again for a 400th time. The situation with Chris Carr was that she is in a higher risk situation. And I'm not going to talk about her situation, but Chris, let me know that she's in a higher risk. I know about her situation. She's in a higher risk situation. And we tried before doing streams with her. We tried getting her in remotely before, but it didn't work out well. It just didn't work out well. And she wasn't quite ready to try to come into studio yet. Now that problem is compounded even more by the fact, whereas I used to live like a 15, 20-minute drive from her, I now live an hour drive from her. But that's the situation she's still in. So she's not quite ready to go back and be in studio. Listen, I don't know how we're going to have Chris Carr involved moving forward, but I love having Chris Carr involved with my show and all the stuff that we do. So Yes. So at some point, somehow, some way, we're going to have Chris Carr involved again. But her situation is different than others. And now that I have moved and I live further away, it's a little more difficult. Streaming with her on Skype like Rob. Rob has a terrific, dedicated streaming setup that makes it a lot easier and better for him to do things. Yeah, that's the way it is. All right. Next up. Tony Rodriguez writes, Agatha Harkness, Agnes. I think this is a short name taken from a long name, but I heard the next episode shows her backstory and the last 3 episodes are going to be an hour. What do you think? Okay. So again, nobody, just to be clear, nobody involved with WandaVision has ever said the last 3 episodes are going to be an hour long. Just be very, very clear about that. Nobody has said that. What happened is people have extrapolated. People have been extrapolating that at one point it was said that WandaVision is like a 6-hour movie. So there are people who have taken that 6 hours literally, and maybe it was meant literally. And they've added up, well, how long has this show been so far after 6 episodes? And it's been roughly this long. And that means there's about, if WandaVision is literally supposed to be 6 hours long exactly, which nobody said it was. But if it is supposed to be 6 hours exactly, that means we have roughly 2 hours and 45 minutes left to go. So roughly the next 3 episodes are going to be an hour long each. And maybe they will be. I hope they are. I really hope they are. But as of right now, nobody has ever come out and officially said, WandaVision, the last 3 hours are going to be an hour long each. I hope they are. They could be. But I mean, I just, that's just running around as some fact right now that it's official. They're an hour long each. And I really don't think that's the case, but it would be awesome if they are. It would be awesome if they are. And as far as the Agatha Harkness thing goes, listen, there has been a lot of little pieces of evidence that Agnes is Agatha Harkness. I still don't buy into it. I think it's a misdirect, but when you look at the name, you look at the little brooch that she used to wear. I mean, I don't think she wore it the last episode, but she had been wearing this brooch that is very similar to a brooch Agatha Harkness wears in the comics. And you look at the last episode when Vision's talking to her in a car, what's she dressed as? A witch, right? So while I don't buy into the Agatha Harkness theory yet, you're not crazy if you do, because there is evidence there. There is evidence there. Maybe it's a misdirect, maybe it's not, but we'll find out. All right, next up. James Germain writes, hey, John, if the MCU was going to introduce the Fantastic Four, they would do it in Ant-Man. Both are all about science exploration. Reed and Pym could be old lab partners with Bill Foster until he got stuck in another dimension with Sue, Ben, and Johnny. I mean, you could. And remember, a lot of people thought that the Ant-Man director, Peyton Reed, was a perfect choice to direct Fantastic Four. Obviously, that's going to be John Watts, who directs the Spider-Man Far From Home and Spider-Man Homecoming and the Spider-Man 3 movie. But a lot of people thought he was the perfect choice for that. And yeah, there are. But does it really matter? Because they introduced Black Panther in Captain America Winter Soldier. That's not a natural fit to introduce Black Panther. Oh, but they introduced a story that included a Wakandan delegation, and they decided, so yes, but that means that you can introduce Reed Richards in any of the MCU movies or any of the MCU shows if your story connects, right? If you can make a connection. But you're right, there does seem to be a very natural connection to the Ant-Man franchise, right? So whether they do or don't, I don't know. But then again, they may not introduce them at all, right? Captain Marvel, I mean, other than like a post-credit or something, but Captain Marvel was not introduced in something else, just the Captain Marvel movie. Boom, Captain Marvel. Ant-Man wasn't introduced in another movie, just boom, Ant-Man. There you go. So maybe they will, maybe they won't. We'll see. All right, next up. The Rian Johnson trilogy writes, the Luke Skywalker-sized cameo in WandaVision will be Luke Skywalker and will tie directly to the Kevin Feige Star Wars movie, YOLO and All Hail King Robert. Yeah, actually, you know what's so funny? There were so many people throwing out the idea that maybe the cameo is actually going to be Luke Skywalker. Don't laugh. There were so many people that were actually thinking the cameo was going to be Luke Skywalker in WandaVision that Kevin Feige actually had to come out and say, no, there's no crossover between Star Wars and the Marvel. It became so popular that Feige himself had to put out a statement about it. That's how much it was. But wouldn't it be something? All right, next up, Tony Gutierrez writes, hey, John, and did anybody notice that when Vision released Agnes from the spell, she reached for the brooch before she asked if he was dead? Notice there was no brooch. Now, I was mentioning that there was no brooch. I don't know if she was reaching for her brooch or just like, oh my goodness. So I don't know if she was reaching for the brooch or if it was just like a natural sort of thing, right? Maybe she was reaching for the brooch. I don't know. Could be. Because again, I think there is evidence there that she could be Agatha Harkness. And if so, the brooch is significant. Is she though? I don't know. Was she reaching for a brooch? I'm not sold on it, but we'll see. All right, Anonymous writes, I'm going out of my mind. What difference does it make where you buy underwear? It's underwear wherever you buy it. I'll be honest with you, I don't know the quote. I don't even recognize the quote. Watch, it's probably in a movie I've seen 1,000 times. And I'm not right. I'm going out of my mind. What difference does it make where you buy underwear? It sounds like a Seinfeld line. It sounds like something that would come out of Seinfeld. So I'm going to guess it's a Seinfeld. Do you guys, any of you guys in the live chat recognize it? I'm guessing it's a Seinfeld line, but I don't know. Nobody? Maybe The Office? Yeah, maybe it's is it from Frasier? Somebody's guessing Frasier. Is it Rain Man? Yeah, I have no idea. I missed it. All right, next up. Dark Knight Rises writes, hey, John, would like to see TV powerhouses Mark Harmon and Kevin Costner go toe-to-toe in a great drama. If a first-rate script ever became available, I thoroughly enjoyed Costner and Woody Harrelson in The Highwaymen. I like The Highwaymen. That was one that was kind of flew under a lot of people's radars, but was actually really good. Like, people laugh at me when I tell them I'm actually a big Kevin Costner fan. I really like Kevin Costner. I think he's great. And it's not just because he was, Pa Kent in Man of Steel. I think he's absolutely fabulous. I think he's wonderful. So that was a good one. Good on you, Dark Knight Rises, for referencing Highwaymen. Well done, sir. All right, next up. Dark Knight Rises also writes, a question for both. Well, Rob's not here, obviously, but perhaps especially for Rob. For someone who is Gentile but interested in Jewish history and culture, is there a good list of films or to recommend? Thanks. I am not the best person for that. The only one that comes to mind is Fiddler on the Roof. And Yentl. Fiddler on the Roof and Yentl. Those are the only two I can really think of that would be good. Again, I am the wrong person to ask for that. Let's see. Man in Mendoza is mentioning Schindler's List. Anything World War II and Nazi Germany and the Holocaust, sure. But I'm trying to think of outside of that. And Brendan Ferris mentioned in the live chat mentions the most obvious one. Tango Shalom, Rob's movie that he is like one of the producers on and he edited and all that kind of stuff. Tango Shalom. There you go. That's a good one to check out. Good on you. I should have thought it should have been the first one that I thought of, Dark Knight. All right. Preston the Kryptonian writes, John, did you touch on the trailer for WandaVision episode 7? If so, I missed it. Is that Magneto? By the way, that was a fake trailer. I'm not even going to go any more into it, Preston, because that was not actually an official trailer. That was fan made. Just so you know, that was fan made. Now, that doesn't mean there may not have been things in there. That doesn't mean there weren't things in there that could be in episode 7. But it was a fan made thing, just so you know. All right, next up. Mum Ra from Thundercats. Mum Ra, the ever living, writes, do you think Donner's past situation is comparable to Snyder's and how drastically different their versions to the theatrical cuts and the behind the scenes drama? Up until Snyder Cut, I have never seen a director's cut with as much new footage as Donner's. Well, here's the thing though. this isn't really a director's cut, right? This isn't really a director's cut. When you see, normally, when you talk about director's cuts, the normal situation is, yeah, a director did a movie and then whatever. But there was another kind of variation the director also did, and they call it the director's cut, and it's a little bit different. And they put that out and all that kind of stuff. So that's the normal thing. The Donner situation, and not as extreme as the Snyder situation, isn't exactly what you would call a prototypical director's cut. It's a very, very different situation. This is a situation where the studio didn't like the movie that was being made. They completely pulled it away from the director they had on it. They gave it to another director and said, we want you to make all these changes. Oh, and it can't be over 2 hours long. And we want you to change all this other stuff. And then another director went in and did it, even though Snyder was still attributed as the director. I guess the DGA validated that there was enough of his stuff in it that he was still officially the director of record. Okay. But it's a different situation. This isn't your stereotypical director's cut. This is but I don't know what other word to give it. So I don't blame anybody who calls it a director's cut. Like, I don't blame anybody who calls Snyder Cut a director's cut, because I don't know what other terminology there would be. So director's cut, completely different thing. I mean, I don't know. I am very curious to see exactly how much of the theatrical film is in the director's cut. There was more of the theatrical film in the trailer than I thought there would be. I'm guessing we're going to get about an hour and a half of the theatrical version in it. I don't know. I'm not predicting that. I'm just taking a wild guess. We'll see and we'll find out. But I am very much curious to see how much of that original film would be in there. But yeah, I don't know what to call it other than director's cut, but it's not really a director's cut. It's weird. Anyway, good question to bring up, Mum Raw, the ever living. All right, Crystal writes, loving having Kimberly on your companion videos, so am I. She makes it a lot easier for me. FYI, as of February 16th, the camera on that seat is focused on microphone instead of person. Can't wait until next WandaVision. How many hours are we out now? Right now, we are 12 hours. We are 12 hours, ladies and gentlemen, away from happy 12-hour mark, away from the new episode of WandaVision. I am very excited about it. And yes, I did notice on that one video that for whatever reason, it pulled focus on the mic instead of on Kimberly. So Kimberly was a little bit soft in focus, but we did then correct that. We did correct that moving on. Anyway, so let's move on here. That was Crystal. Next up, William writes, part 1. John, you often refer to Walter Hamada's lack of interest in reference to, let me try this again. Part 1. John, you often refer to Walter Hamada's lack of interest in reference to further Snyder Cut content beyond Justice League. Given the green light for that didn't come from him, it came from his bosses. Why wouldn't they be on the same ones? Wouldn't they be the same people that could make the call if Justice League produces results they deem success? Here's the thing. What they're not going to do is create contradictory movie franchises. Look, this is part of the thing that everybody, even the most diehard of Snyder Cut supporters know. Warner Brothers did not want his movie. Some of the executives did. Most of the executives didn't. There was actually, before, you guys remember this too. This was well publicized. You can find this in all the major trades. After Batman versus Superman came out, and it had mixed results, let's say. I personally really like Batman versus Superman. Sue me. I actually think it's quite good. I enjoy it a lot. I even have an entire video out called Defending the Martha Scene. So go and look it up. I even think the Martha scene was good. I just think people misinterpreted the Martha scene. Anyway. But after it came out, a lot of Warner Brothers wanted wanted Zack Snyder pulled off of Justice League. The problem was that they were just weeks when Batman vs. Superman came out. It came out just weeks before they were supposed to start shooting. And even though most of the Warner Brothers execs wanted to pull Zack Snyder off of it because they weren't happy with the results that they had been getting. Now, you and I can agree or disagree with them, but I'm just saying this is what the Warner Brothers execs were. They felt they couldn't have that same type of underperformance for Justice League. But since it was only a few weeks away from shooting, they decided that it was too late. It was too late to pull Zack Snyder off it at that point. So they decided to move forward with it. Unfortunately, Zack Snyder had an edit of the film. He showed it to a bunch of Warner Brothers execs, and they didn't like it. Some of them did, but a lot of them didn't like it. And so they decided at some point along the way, through a lot of other circumstances as well, Zack Snyder was pulled. Warner Brothers said, okay, we're going to now take what we've got. We're going to try to salvage this. We want this all taken out. We want this all taken out. And we want it to be no more than 2 hours long. Because the cut that Zack had showed the Warner Brothers guys was a 4-hour cut, which isn't unusual, by the way. Because I hear a lot of people going, well, why on earth would Snyder show them a 4-hour cut? That's not unusual. Yeah, almost all the time, the first cut that a director puts together will be a longer cut. So like everybody who was ragging on Zack Snyder, why would you even put together? That's not unusual. That's fairly normal. Not every time, but it is fairly normal. And, but I do think his intention was for it to be much longer than 2 hours. Warner Brothers said we didn't want it to be any more than 2 hours. Brought on Whedon, gave him a mandate. You need to change all this, change all this, change all this, and don't make it longer than 2 hours. And when, by the way, you have no extra time to do it. You got to do all of this, and you've only got a very, very small amount of time to do it. Go. And somehow, Whedon, who's in a lot of trouble of his own right now, Whedon managed, under those circumstances, to put out a movie that ended up getting better critic ratings and better audience ratings than Batman vs. Superman did. But anyway, that's a story for another time. So this isn't a situation where they're looking for a feasible way to continue on with the Zack. They're not. Listen, Deb Snyder said herself, go look it up, in that first Vanity Fair interview that they did on the day they announced that that HBO Max was going to put on Snyder Cut. Deborah Snyder herself said that this was never going to happen until HBO Max came along. HBO Max is in a situation right now where they are desperate to draw attention to itself, and as they should, to get attention to HBO Max and to make a big splash. And what better, this is why, if you guys remember, months before they ever announced that Snyder Cut was going to come to HBO Max, months before that, we put out a video that said, Warner Brothers should it's time to put out the Snyder Cut on HBO Max. Because that was the obvious perfect fit. They didn't have to give it a theatrical release. They could put on HBO Max. It would get a lot of attention for HBO Max and all this kind of stuff. It just made sense. And then when they did, months later, announce that they were doing that, Deb Snyder confirmed, yeah, this was never going to get a release until HBO Max. But they're not looking any further down the road than that. They're not looking any further down the road from that. They know it's going to be Snyder Cut on HBO Max, and that's it. Now, people can ask, but John, what if it does really well? Well, here's the thing. They already know how it's going to go. Like, they already know how it's going to do. There have already been movies by Zack Snyder in the DCEU, and they already know how people respond to Zack Snyder's DCU movies. They already know. They've had a couple of films to see how this plays out. There are people like me, and maybe some of you, that like Zack Snyder's DCU sensibilities. Man of Steel to me is one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. I made an entire half-hour editorial video about how it's the most underrated comic book movie of all time. I really like Batman vs. Superman. Yes, even the Martha scene. And so people like me are probably going to like Justice League. But for every one of me, there's one or two people who every time I say how good Man of Steel is, I get shouted down with Man of Steel sucks. And which is fine. It's all subjective. You're allowed to have that opinion. Man of Steel sucks. And all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. That's fine. But those people aren't going to magically change their minds and suddenly like Zack Snyder's DCEU sensibilities. They've already seen a couple of films of his sensibilities. So Warner Brothers and HBO Max, they know how this is going to turn out, and they know how it's going to go. That's why Zack Snyder, when he was asked, hey, are you going to do more DCU stuff? Zack Snyder said, I have no plans to do anything more. And personally, I'm looking forward to what he does outside of the DCU. I think Army of the Dead is going to be great. I'm very much looking forward to this. But anyway, yeah, there it is. Okay, Owen Road writes, you may have heard of the somewhat newer team in Marvel Comics called the Ultimates. Yes. Blue Marvel, Captain Marvel, Photon, America Chavez, and or America Chavez. I know a girl with that name, and it's pronounced America. I don't know if in the comic book it's supposed to be pronounced America or America. I'll go with America. And Black Panther are the members. See where I'm going with this? I believe we'll definitely have an MCU version soon. I'm not sure about that. There are a lot of things. There are a lot of things in the comics. There are a lot of things in the comics that they never have and never will bring into the MCU. I'm not saying that's impossible. I mean, Photon is one of the names that Monica Rambeau goes by later on. She also goes by the name of Spectrum. She goes by the name of Captain Marvel at one point. She goes by a lot of different names, but Photon is one of them. They could do that, but I'm saying just because we've seen it in the comics doesn't necessarily mean that's what they're going to do in the MCU. I'm just saying, I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying one does not automatically equal the other. That's all I'm saying, Owen. All right. Anyway, next up, Phil Desmaris writes, one of two. Hello, John. Sorry about the abbreviations. Number one, Kimberly is awesome. She is great. More, please. Hearing lots of talk about Skrulls and Secret Invasion / Secret Wars interchangeably. Yeah. I will often, when I'm talking about Kevin Feige, I will often you guys make fun of me a lot for this, but it's true. I do this. A lot of times I'll be talking about Kevin Feige and I'll accidentally say Kevin Smith. I do it all the time. Or when I'm talking about Ryan Gosling, I'll accidentally say Ryan Reynolds. I mean, they're both first name Ryan. They're both Canadian actors, whatever. So I do it, but especially the Kevin Feige, Kevin Smith thing. And when I was talking the other day about Secret Invasion, I kept saying Secret Wars. But you guys knew I was talking about Secret Invasion. I'm more familiar with the latter. Thought Skrulls featured in the former. Yes. So in Secret Invasion, what happens is they, basically what happens is they find out a number of the heroes on Earth are actually Skrulls. They're actually Skrulls. And the Queen Skrull, yes, in this story, there's a Queen Skrull. And the Queen Skrull is actually on Earth too. And it creates this big battle. And Reed Richards is trying to figure out a way to identify and just make the distinction between who are the real heroes and who are the Skrulls and all this kind of stuff. And it comes to this big climax and battle history. Anyway, it ends with the, Tony Stark being removed as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. A lot of things happen. A lot of things happen in the Secret Invasion. Anyway, that's one of two. The snaps could be the event that breached the Beyonder's realm to have him peek at Earth. Maybe saw TV as historical documents, a la Galaxy Quest. Essence of the Mind Stone tracked with me, as Dr. Selvig said, Tesseract was behaving in Avengers 1. Yeah, listen, that's the other thing. Like the stones themselves, there were many things. There were a lot of things mentioned in the MCU films about the Infinity Stones that imply sentience amongst the stones, right? Most obvious of which was the Red Skull talking about the Soul Stone, right? There's very heavy implication that there's a sentience amongst the soul in the Soul Stone. Dr. Selvig saying that the stone is behaving a certain way. There are several times that it's hinted that there's actually sentience amongst the stones, that maybe the essence of the Mind Stone is still around. That's one of the things, but we'll find out. All right, the Fatties Special writes, where are we at? First timer here. Good to have you here. Director Hayward has a file for project. During the credits in each show, they show us going through Vision's eye, just like when Vision killed Ultron. Am I overthinking, or could Ultron be the big bad of the show? He would want revenge. Okay, so the Ultron thing is absolutely a lingering theory. And why not? There is connection, obviously, between Ultron and Vision, right? There's obvious connection there. So could Ultron come back into play? There's also a theory out there that the whole reason why Sword was experimenting on Vision's, ripped apart corpse was maybe they were trying to get the Ultron project back up and running. It's like, yeah, Ultron nearly destroyed the world, but imagine if we could control Ultron. And maybe they're trying to recreate an Ultron. Maybe. Look, there are a lot of different theories out there, but yeah, that Ultron could be a part of it is absolutely on the table. I'm not saying it will happen, but it's definitely on the table. All right. Shay Mizrahi writes, if I'm mispronouncing that, Shay, forgive me. I'm the worst at name pronunciation. My first theory about Agnes is that she is a single woman living in Westview playing a married woman. Now I think she is a widow. That's why she looks excited to hear that Wanda can raise the dead. Oh, it's something that Wanda can relate with. Okay, wait a minute, Shay. That's not a bad thing to bring up. Because we're all always talking, including me, that what's with this husband of hers? What's with Ralph? She's always talking about Ralph, and we never see Ralph. What if she's literally a widow and she's just, and because, yeah, the way that scene when they had the dead dog and the kids talk to Wanda about, you can bring him back. And then it cuts to Agnes, who looks shocked. Is like, you can do that? Maybe that's some sort of foreshadowing of a revelation that she's actually a widow, her husband's dead, and she's kind of being motivated by trying to bring her husband. I don't know. Now I'm going way off into left field here. Forgive me for that. But that's an interesting angle, Shay, that I hadn't thought about yet. Let's keep our eyes on that as we go into episode 7. By the way, somebody in the live chat, I think it's Gerald in the live chat, thinks Agnes. Was it Gerald? Was it somebody else? No. It was Chris J. wrote in the live chat, I think Agnes might be Hayward's wife. Well, no, because then they would have immediately identified her, right? They would have immediately identified her. Maybe, I don't know, Agnes is his side girl. I don't know, but that would explain why he's so angry and wants to get in there. But no. They would have immediately recognized her. That's the thing. They would have immediately recognized her. Okay, let's keep going here. John Ox writes, hello, Mr. Campea and crew. Hope you are all having a good day. I am. Thank you very much. Anyway, I know you don't like to talk about other YouTubers, so I'm going to refrain from mentioning their names. What are your opinions on Gina Carano moving to that unnamed company? All right, here's the funny thing. And I only bring this up because, okay, so Aaron was just here. So Aaron and Tom, Aaron, who was just here, and her husband, Tom, came over to our house last Thursday. They came, we had dinner, they stayed the night, we watched WandaVision together, and then Aaron did the show on Friday morning with me, right? So Thursday night, we're sitting around having dinner, and the issue of the Gina Carano situation comes up. I swear to God, this is 100% true. You can cross-reference, write to Aaron on her social media if you want verification of this. So Thursday night happens, and we're sitting down having dinner, me, Ann, Aaron, and Tom. And the topic of the Gina Carano situation comes up. And Aaron asks, like, do you think her career can survive this? Do you think she can move on from this and still have a working career? And I said the following, and I swear to God, this is 100% true. I said, oh, no. She'll be fine. Gina will be fine. And I said, listen, I guarantee you, Ben Shapiro and his organization have started producing movies. And I guarantee you, they will jump because of the politics of it. They will jump to hire Gina Carano quickly. I said, I'm just telling you right now, that's going to happen, and it's going to happen quick because they get to make a political statement and all by doing it and all that kind of stuff. I guarantee you that's going to happen here. The next morning, Tom, like I'm in the kitchen getting myself something to eat, and Tom comes out of the bedroom and he says, John, you got to give me some lottery numbers because what you said last night is just coming out right now. And the report came out that Ben Shapiro and had signed Gina Carano to do something. I swear to God, that is exactly how it happened. So I called it the night before, and then it happened the very, very next day. And yeah, so what do I think of it? Well, look, I think this. I think Gina Carano is wanting to be an actress. This is a career that she wants to have. There was an opportunity for her to work as an actress, and there is another company that is looking for performers and actors, and why not? Why not? I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, I don't think news organizations should be producing movies, but aside from that, I don't see the problem. She's an actress. There's an acting job available. There's a place that needs performers, and Gina Carano's available. Yeah, there's some other things around it too. There's obviously some political agenda there, but at the end of the day, who cares? She's an actress. She's presented with an opportunity to act. What's wrong with that? I personally don't see any problem with that. So anyway, let's move on here. Sorry. So you had two different names there. Movie company after she gets fired from The Mandalorian. And do you think this will affect her career in the near future? I mean, I don't listen. You get offered a job, you work. There's nothing wrong with that to me. Nothing wrong with that to me. All right. P.S. If you don't want to answer the question, I will completely understand. Just wanted to support you, and I could not think of any other question. No, it's a good question. It's a good question. But again, at the end of the day, regardless of who it was, and obviously there's a political angle to it, but that aside, they are trying to develop a studio, so they're trying to make content, and they want to get names. Gina Carano is an actress who now finds herself needing acting gigs, and it's simpatico. It fits. It works. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it's perfectly good. All right, next up, Ross B. Spoilers for WandaVision. In episode 6, Vision walks out of the Hex with the Mind Stone intact, and the Hex pulls him apart, trying to trap him. Does this mean that the new Vision can live outside the Hex? By the way, love your content. Thank you so much for that, Ross. Actually, no. I think what was being implied, and I don't know this, I think we'll find out for sure tonight. What I think was being implied was not that Vision can survive outside of the Hex. Personally, I think what was being implied was that he cannot exist outside of the Hex. And the moment he steps out, he starts being ripped apart and it's sucking him back. And I thought the implied message there to the audience was that Vision cannot exist. Just going to pour myself another delicious Zevia. Zevia, sponsor me, you cheap sons of bitches. Anyway, I thought the implied message there was not that he can exist, but that he can't. And I don't think that was really the Mind Stone in his head. That's just a replica of a Mind Stone. But that's what I'm thinking right now. Who knows? We will find out soon enough, Ross. We are 11 hours and 45 minutes away, my friends. 11 hours and 45 minutes away from the next episode of WandaVision. All right. Guy Fox JLT writes, I love the way you think when I answer the director not important question in the companion video. Do you think the director cuts as an example of that? Huh? Let me try this again. I love the way you think when I answer the director not important question in the companion video. Do you think the director cuts is an example of that? I'll be honest with you, Guy. I have no idea what we're talking about. I'm assuming you've probably, sent in a question that I answered earlier, but I literally get like hundreds a day. I literally get hundreds a day, so I cannot remember. So, hey, listen, guys, do me a favor, and I apologize, Guy, that I'm not remembering. But if you guys do want to send in a follow-up question, make sure you give me enough reference so I don't have to remember exactly what the previous one was. Just because listen, Guy just took in the time to send in a question, support my show, and I'm sitting here like with my dick out and not being able, I mean, not literally, and not being able to answer the question. I feel bad about that. So just something to think about in the future, guys. But I'm sorry, Guy. I wish I could remember, but I don't remember. My apologies. But thank you for being here and supporting the channel anyway, man. All right. Let's see. Some people have been very disturbed about my dick out. My dick out. Don't stand up, John. Come on, guys. If I get 10 tips of $100, I'll stand. Isn't that how people make money on for fans only or whatever? That's what I should do. I should create a fans only account. Oh my God. I'd be rich. Everybody wants to see what Camps is packing. Why? I have no idea why I just said that. I have no idea why I just said that. All right. Devin writes, next up, Devin, sorry. I can see that the live chat is already completely distracted. All right. Devin writes, will the GC firing have a trickle-down effect on working class labor protections? I could see Big Corp X firing a worker, leading a unionization effort on account of creating a toxic work environment and using the GC incident as a legal justification. No, I don't think there's anything like that. I mean, that is what's, Devin, that is what is known as a slippery slope argument. And it's pretty well established that slippery slope arguments shouldn't be the basis of anything to go on. Look, there is something unique about the extremely rare, privileged position that movie stars, professional athletes, and a few others like that are in. They're in a very, very, very privileged and unique, rare position of great fame and great wealth. But what comes along with that fame is the indisputable connection that the public makes between those athletes or stars and the companies or teams that employ them. It is a very unique situation, one of extreme and rare privilege that they have. By the way, Smilodon has also sent in some more super chats in the live chat. Thank you for that, man. I appreciate that. As with all the ones that you do. But with that extremely rare, privileged, lofty position of being a big sports star, or being a big movie star, or a big TV star, whatever, that comes along with a unique hurdle. And that unique hurdle is that there is an indisputable connection that the public makes between you in that privileged, high, lofty position and the companies that employ you. Thus, and Captain Mexico sends in a super chat badge in there as well. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Thus, if you work at, I don't know, let's say you're a nighttime maintenance manager for a Taco Bell, okay? You work hard, you do your job. The thing is, people don't look at you and me and everybody else and see an indistinguishable, indisputable connection between the company we work for and who we are. The public doesn't have that perception. In this rare privileged position that these sports stars and entertainers and stuff like that, there is that perception. And so, if you are lucky enough to be one of the few people on this earth to have that privileged position, you have got to understand that what you do and say publicly reflects on the organization you work for. You may not like that it does. You may not intend for that to be, but that is the way it is. As the song would say, that's just the way it is. Some things will never change, and that's just the way it is. It's the way it is. There is an indefensible, undisputable connection that the public makes between you and those organizations. So when a famous athlete, I'm just going to pull a random team out of the air, Denver Broncos. When a player on the Denver Broncos, like if you're the average guy, you work at the Ford Motor Company, you do your job, you get a DUI, guess what? You getting a DUI does not reflect on the Ford Motor Company. The Ford Motor Company doesn't care. They're not going to do anything about that. But if you are a wide receiver or an offensive lineman on the Denver Broncos and you get DUIs, you get a bunch of DUIs, guess what? That is a reflection, and that reflects, rightly or wrongly, it reflects on the Denver Broncos themselves. And you just made the Denver Broncos look bad. And so the Denver Broncos, we have seen in the past, when certain athletes cause embarrassment for their teams, they'll move on. They'll move on from them. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but that's their prerogative. They do. Same is true when you're a big famous movie star. You want to be famous, you want world fame, you want the million, you want all the money that comes along with it. Guess what? If you are in an NBC show and you conduct yourself in a certain way that embarrasses NBC, the public connects you with them. And it's up to NBC to decide how they want their public image to be. It's not up to you to decide how their public image should be. It's not up to me to decide how their public image should be. And if you bring controversy to NBC's doorstep, NBC is going to ask you to stop. If you don't stop bringing embarrassment to NBC's doorstep or controversy to NBC's doorstep, NBC is going to fire you. You may agree or disagree with the things that Gina Carano was tweeting out and running on about on social media, but it doesn't matter what you think. And it doesn't matter what I think. What is indisputable was that she was causing controversy that Disney didn't want to be associated with them. It's just that simple. So she causes controversy that Disney doesn't want to be associated with. So they approach her through her representation and say, hey, we're uncomfortable with what's going on here. Can this stop? And then it happened again. And Disney reached out through her representation, said, can this please stop? Then it happened a third time. And Disney said, look, this is we don't want to be associated with the controversy you're stirring up. That is not what we want associated with our brand. And if you're going to be associated with our brand, you can't keep bringing controversy to our door. And they never fired her. They didn't fire her after the first thing. They didn't fire her after the second thing. They didn't fire her after the third thing. But then she did a fourth thing. And finally, Disney said, enough. We don't trust you anymore. You're just going to keep bringing controversy to our door that we don't want to have associated with us. Therefore, we're going to part ways. You have the freedom to say whatever you want. We have the freedom to choose who we associate with. That's the thing about freedom that everybody forgets. It goes both ways. Gina Carano has the freedom to say whatever she wants. But if you want this privileged position, you're going to have to recognize that Disney or any other employer has the freedom to choose who they're going to associate with and what they want to be associated with. Just like you do. You have the choice to choose who you associate with and who you don't associate with. So do they. So as a long-time Gina Carano fan, you guys have watched me for a long period of time. You guys know I'm a big Gina Carano fan. She's not the greatest actress in the world, granted, but I'm a big fan of hers. But hey, listen, she did things that her employer didn't want to be associated with. They warned her several times. She kept doing it. And at some point, the company that employed her said, we no longer want to be associated with the stuff you're bringing to our door. So we're parting ways. It's really as simple as that. Anybody who tries to make it more than that is just trying to politicize it. Anyway, that's that. Anyway, let's keep going here. Buddy Christ, the OG Jedi writes, hey, John and all. I grew up on Disney and Star Wars, and I still am a big supporter of their content. I am also not blind and know and can see when they need to be criticized. That being said, I believed that they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. 1 of 5. In 4 similar cases, only one ended differently. The individuals in these cases are Gina Carano, Letitia Wright, Pedro Pascal, and Liu Yifei from Mulan. Each of them made some inflammatory comments on social media. I can guarantee each one of them Jeez, listen, if you're going to put in multiple sections, you got to write in faster. Was advised by Disney as well as their agents to refrain from making certain comments that could incite unwanted attention regardless of the political spectrum. Liu Yifei made no further comments. Mr. Pascal removed his comments. Letitia Wright deleted her Twitter account. Miss Carano went Sesame Street with which one of these things doesn't belong here. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling Miss Carano decided to self-sabotage her golden goose with Star Wars and had a deal with Daily Wire prior to her last post. I wouldn't doubt that. That's probably why her talent agency dropped her like that, like a bad habit. She just decided to gaslight Disney and her agency on the way out. Lack of class and professionalism, in my opinion. And I liked her Cara Dune character. Good riddance, bad rubbish. Well, you just brought up something that I have been mentioning. Because as people have been bringing up to me, well, what about Pedro Pascal? What about Pedro Pascal? He said some stupid things and he stopped. What about Letitia Wright? What about Letitia Wright? She said some things and then she stopped. And that's the difference between those situations. The difference between that. And listen, I have never considered that maybe Gina Carano decided to use this as a publicity stunt. She wanted to get herself fired because she already had this other deal made so she could make herself a martyr. Listen, I don't know, buddy Christ. To me, that's a little conspiracy theory-ish. That is a little conspiracy theory-ish. I mean, it's not the most outlandish theory. That Gina Carano knew if she kept writing stuff like that, she would get herself fired, and then maybe did it on purpose. Maybe. Again, to me, it's a little outlandish. Not outlandish. It's a little bit of a stretch and a little bit conspiracy theory-ish to me. So I don't know. It's possible. It's a possibility, I suppose. All right. Next on. Joe Din writes, "Hey, John. Couldn't agree with you more when you said that I Love Lucy holds up. It's been watching that show for almost 30 years and it's still funny as hell. It's so funny and timeless. Even my 14-year-old and 4-year-old are laughing at the jokes and gags. It's an amazing show." Yeah, listen, I'm very excited about the upcoming Aaron Sorkin. I'm trying to remember the actual name of the movie project, but it's going to be about Lucille Ball. It's going to revolve around the show, a day in the life of Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. It looks wonderful. J.K. Simmons just signed up for it. You've got a couple of wonderful performances, some Academy Award winners in this. I'm excited about this, but yes, it absolutely reminded me of just the fact of how good the original show is. A lot of great shows from that era don't necessarily hold up. I Love Lucy is a show. I don't care. I will argue this with anybody. I Love Lucy is a show that holds up. There is something completely timeless about it, Joe. I completely agree with you about that. All right, John T. writes, "Hey, John, imagine this scene. Wanda defeats the yet-to-be revealed big bad guy. Vision is dead again. Her kids are gone. A broken Wanda is now in sword custody. Her padded cell is violently broken into. It's Magneto. He says to her, 'Daughter, no more hiding.'" Oh, I mean, listen, I've said this before, John. I will say it again. If Reed Richards is one, but if Magneto or Professor Xavier shows up in WandaVision, either Ian McKellen or Michael Fassbender shows up and says, "You have my daughter," or this wheelchair rolls up, the camera pans up, it's Professor Charles Xavier and says, "I believe I could be of some assistance," or something like that. I'm not saying that'll happen. I am just saying that the internet would be huge. The internet would be huge there, John. It would be absolutely huge reaction. It would shake the world. Now, I don't know that that's what they're going to do. There are reasons why I believe it won't be what they do, but oh my God, can you imagine? The internet will break. The internet will break if at some point we see, whether it's James McAvoy or James McAvoy or Patrick Stewart or Ian McKellen or Michael Fassbender show up as either Magneto or Charles Xavier. Again, I don't really think that's what's going to happen, but oh my God, if it did, the internet breaks. It absolutely breaks. All right, next up. Adrian writes, "The Batman versus Superman Beautiful Lie opening scene where Bruce's parents are murdered is is, in my opinion, one of the best opening scenes of all time. It's just so freaking powerful. Also, the Beautiful Lie soundtrack is just magical. Hans Zimmer is superhuman. Here's the thing about that opening scene in Batman vs. Superman. I understand the criticism of it. I do. Because there was criticism that came out that was like, how many times do we have to see Thomas and Martha Kent be murdered in the thing? I get it. I do. But Batman vs. Superman wasn't those other iterations of Batman. And when you understand that in Batman vs. Superman, we have what I believe to be the best representation of Batman in any movie. I'm not saying it's the best Batman movie ever. I'm just saying it's the best representation of Batman ever. A truly fractured soul in Bruce Wayne that understood that Bruce Wayne died in that alley with his parents, and the Batman, in that moment, the Batman was born. And that the real person is Batman. Bruce Wayne is some make-believe character that Batman pretends to be now and again. And they got that. And I think for that point to really come across in Batman versus Superman, I think you need to start with that. Yes, we've seen the Wayne parents being killed a million times, but if we're going to understand this iteration of Batman in Batman versus Superman as portrayed by Ben Affleck, if we're going to really get him, you have to see that murder scene again. You have to relive that again. And that's why I personally do it. Like, I understand the criticism. We've seen this 1,000 times. I get it. I do. Like, do we need to see Uncle Ben murdered again? I get it. I get it. But for this Batman that Ben Affleck portrayed, I feel like we needed that scene. That's just my take on it at any rate. All right. Kim Deserves Her Own Show writes, hey, John, my wish list for Doctor Strange 2 multiverse cameos. Nick Cage's Ghost Rider. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Wesley Snipes' Blade. They already got a new Blade. Ben Affleck's Daredevil. Oh my God. I would personally like that, although I don't think anybody else would. Ed Norton or Eric Bana's Hulk. Well, remember, everybody forgets this. Ed Norton is the MCU's Hulk. They just recast him with Mark Ruffalo, but it is still the same guy. Right? Like, don't forget that. Eric Bana's totally different. Chris Evans is Johnny Storm. That would be hilarious. Halle Berry's Storm and Nick Brenna's Spider-Man. Oh my God. Now you're really going back. You are going way back. Good on you for going that far back. But yeah, any of those would be fun. But the one for me that would be the most fun, Kim, would be Ben Affleck's Daredevil. I know everybody hates Ben Affleck's Daredevil. I don't care. I like it. There, I said it. I don't care. I like Ben Affleck's Daredevil movie. Dare I say, and I've said this before, if you take that Daredevil movie, by the way, Colin Farrell was awesome in that movie. He was awesome in that movie. But so was Michael Clark Duncan, by the way. But I proclaim, if you take out that god-awful teeter-totter scene between Jennifer Garner, my all-time number one celebrity crush, if you take out that awful teeter-totter scene, then I am telling you, that movie's great. I think that teeter-totter scene, that whole sequence is so bad, it reduces it from being good. It reduces it from being great to just being good. But I like that Daredevil movie. I don't care who knows it. I think it's a lot of fun. All right, next up. Let's see. Oh, wait a second. Kim Deserves Better writes. Oh no, that was the one we just did. Okay. Next up. Buddy Christ, the OG God writes. We already got to that point too. Ben Dover writes, did WandaVision skip the 90s? Malcolm in the Middle was 2000, 2006. I looked up popular 90s sitcoms and they were Friends, Seinfeld, Frasier. Not really shows that reflect the family dynamic they are going for. Love the show. Yeah, we talked about this last week, Ben. The way I interpreted it is that, first of all, they're running out of episodes because I think, I don't know this, nobody's told me this is just my guess. I think that tonight's episode, coming in 11 and a half hours, is going to be the final episode that deals with the sitcom stuff. I believe like episode 8 is going to be like a flashback episode. I don't know that. Just be clear. No one told me that. I'm just guessing. But my guess is that episode 8 is going to be like a flashback episode and episode 9 is going to be all climax. So I think tonight's going to be the final one, which means they only had so many decades that could cover. My theory is that when you look at the differences between the sitcoms in the 60s and the 70s, there's a huge difference. When you look at the differences between the sitcoms in the 70s and the 80s, huge difference. But I kind of looked at the last episode as an amalgamation of the 90s and 2000s. Because really, the sitcoms of the 90s and early 2000s were actually, to me, very similar. So, yeah, that's kind of my guess on that. Next up, Where They Did, Buddy Christ. That was already that one. Okay, now we're on a different one. Also, in regards, says Buddy Christ, in regards to Rian Johnson and his Star Wars trilogy, I do believe he will be involved in some way. 3 reasons why. Number 1, he didn't say anything ignorant or do something stupid. Number 2, regardless of anyone's opinion, The Last Jedi, I rank number 3 on my list, had the audacity to challenge us as Star Wars fans to put a microscope to the flaws of the characters we love and see them if we still love and accept them. That takes some major fortitude to even attempt, let alone succeed. I think it's more of a commentary, who we are as fans, than the film itself. And I appreciate that and still love them. And 3, he's a brilliant and talented filmmaker. I believe Disney knows that. You don't discard a talent like that unless, well, you know, LOL. Also, Star Wars fans are what we are now. I love DC Comics, but most of the movies we have leave me lukewarm. Man, sorry, I'm trying to keep up here. Most of the movies we have left me lukewarm at best, but I will not yuck on anybody's yum, as you all say. I do believe that going forward, there will be no way to please us all. And Stuart Smalley says that's okay. All right. So getting to the Rian Johnson thing. Of course, some of you guys, we talked about this on the show the other day. Rian Johnson, at least a reporter for, I believe, who was it for? Was it Entertainment Weekly? I can't remember who she was a reporter for. One of the big major trades said that in her interview with Rian Johnson, that Rian Johnson said they're still working on his Star Wars trilogy, but they have no dates and no timelines. Okay. USA Today. Thank you, Kyle. Kyle wrote into the live chat that it's USA Today. USA Today wrote in, the reporter for USA Today said that. So here's the thing. I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that they're ever going to do a Rian Johnson trilogy. And the reason isn't because he's not a phenomenal filmmaker. He is. He is a phenomenal filmmaker. Like, truly upper echelon. He's incredible. There's a reason Knives Out got all the Oscar attention it did. Knives Out was amazing. Looper is amazing. And he's a great filmmaker. And I personally like The Last Jedi. I mean, there are things about The Last Jedi I hated. I talk about that all the time. But overall, I like The Last Jedi. But here's the problem. What happens when you bring in Rian Johnson to do another Star Wars movie? Here's the unescapable truth of it. Now, granted, his Star Wars movie made over $1 billion. I mean, so there you go. Made over $1 billion. But what happens the moment you hire or the moment you announce that Rian Johnson is directing another Star Wars movie? Nobody's talking about the movie anymore. Everything is just going to rehash the massive division in the Star Wars fan base over The Last Jedi. That's all that's going to happen again. There is too much drawback for Disney, for Lucasfilm, and for Rian Johnson. I don't believe for a second Rian Johnson's even interested in doing another Star Wars movie. He'll just keep going making other movies and getting Academy Award nominations and everything like he's doing. I don't think he's at all interested in doing another Star Wars movie. And I don't think Disney, so I don't think it'd be a good move for him to come back. And I don't think it would be a good move for Disney to bring him in because that's all that it's going to be. It's going to be a circus. You bring back Rian Johnson through no fault of Rian Johnson's, it's going to be a massive circus. All it's going to do is it's going to be all controversy. And we just talked about Disney, just get the controversy away from us. And that's why I think right now, Rian Johnson's saying, Oh, yeah. We're still working on it. I mean, no idea when it's going to happen or anything about it or anything like that. But sure, it's still happening. To me, this is the same thing that happened when Ben Affleck, after I told everybody Ben Affleck was out. Ben Affleck was out as Batman. He's not going to be Batman anymore. And yet Ben Affleck came out on stage at Comic-Con and said, oh no, I'm still Batman. I'll walk on all fours like an ape for Matt Reeves for Batman. Yeah. But we now know he was already gone. This is the same thing. This is just Rian Johnson playing good PR, deflect any attention, because they know if Rian Johnson came out right now and said, yeah, I'm not doing Star Wars anymore, then that's the headline. He says, yeah, I'm doing Star Wars still, but, no timeline or anything. Then we look at that interesting. Oh, it's interesting that he said that, but we know he's not. Let's put it this way. I will be shocked. If he comes back and directs another. Now, Rob brought up a really good point the other day. Maybe he writes a Star Wars script and they bring in other directors to do it. That's possible. I still think unlikely, but possible. Maybe he comes in and acts as a producer on a movie, but somebody else directs. That's possible. Unlikely, but possible. I really don't expect that we're going to see him back directing another Star Wars movie. That's just my guess right now. I mean, I could be wrong. I have no insider information on that, but I don't think we're going to see him again. Or at least not there. Anyway, Yellow Orphan writes, hey, John, I really appreciate you sharing how much the first Batman film means to you because of experience with your best friend. I had a similar one with my dad with Deadpool before he passed. Oh, man. His review quote, I didn't know murder could be so much fun. That is a great line that your dad gave you. That is a line, Yellow Orphan. You get to hold on for the rest of that. Is great that your dad said that. Yeah, I mean, this is all connected to what I was talking about before, that movies create these bonding connections that we have with each other, including like this. Again, whenever now I see any Batman movie, I think about me and my friend who passed away a couple of years ago. Me and my best friend going downtown, going to see the first, we were young, and going to see the first Michael Keaton Batman movie, and that's with me forever. And we've heard from other people like you, Yellow Orphan, like you had that experience with your dad watching Deadpool. Now, whenever you watch Deadpool, you probably think of your dad. But that is a fabulous quote. I didn't know murder could be so much fun. That is great. All right, next up. Yellow Orphan also writes, me and my dad would go to the theater every month, and he passed down his love of film to me, and I couldn't be more grateful for it. What are some films that you and your family bond over? For my dad and me, it was Star Wars, Star Trek, and Godzilla. Well, I mean, there are a couple. Like my dad's not a big movie guy. He's not a big movie guy. But there are some he loved, like anything Sherlock Holmes. But mostly, I remember growing up, my dad's all-time favorite movie was Old Yeller. Old Yeller. That was my dad's all-time favorite movie, if I remember correctly. It was Old Yeller. And I knew my dad liked Sherlock Holmes too. So like for one Christmas, I took my allowance money. I went and bought my dad like this Sherlock Holmes collection book. My dad really liked Sherlock Holmes too, but my dad's not a big movie guy. Not a big movie guy. My mom, on the other hand, is a big movie person. Like she loves movies. And it was my mom who introduced me to Star Wars. And my mom has this deep, deep love of Lord of the Rings and all that kind of stuff. So we bond over that. And then every Christmas, we watch the Alistair Christmas Carol. Of course, we watch Wizard of Oz and things like that too. So those are some ones that work with us. All right. Next up, we've got, we already did Buddy. Buddy. Then David Thompson writes, hey, John, this isn't a question or anything. I just wanted to let you know I've been a fan since the AMC Movie Talk days. Thank you very much, David. I appreciate that. And you've been a huge inspiration in my life. I now write for an entertainment news website and also host my own podcast. That's awesome. Dude, that's great. One of the things I'm always telling my viewers is like, listen, even if it's just for fun for once in a while, I think every film fan should get involved in doing a blog or a podcast or a YouTube channel or something like that. Just to it makes being a fan more fun. And it doesn't matter if you have one audience member or a reader or a listener or a viewer or whether you have 100. Doesn't matter. Just get involved. It makes it more fun. And I'm glad you did that, David. Thanks for sharing that, man. I appreciate that. All right. And good luck with everything that you do there. All right. Christian Curry writes, I believe the person Monica called was Shuri. I would consider her an engineer of sorts. She has the brains and the vibranium resources to build a vehicle that will absorb the energy from the force field that will allow them to enter unaltered. Well, there is a couple of problems though. Like Shuri is definitely one we've talked about, right? We've talked about Shuri. Let me see if I can bring her up here. We were just talking about Letitia Wright. Let's see here. Okay. The thing about Shuri, and the problem that you have with Shuri is, well, first of all, on the one hand, she's brilliant, right? She's completely brilliant. She is, remember, the smartest person in the MCU. According to Kevin Feige, according to the producers, everything, Shuri is the smartest person in the MCU, smarter than Banner, smarter than Tony Stark. She is the smartest person in the MCU. She builds all the stuff for T'Challa and all this kind of stuff. She's the head of the national development and science thing. If there's somebody who could build that for Monica, Shuri's definitely one of those people who could be the ones that build it for her, no doubt. There is, however, a problem with that theory. And that problem is this. Shuri has been snapped out of existence for a long time. She's been gone for 5 years. And prior to those 5 years, there's really no way Shuri and Monica would really know each other, right? It's a very, very short period of time between Black Panther, because remember, Wakanda stays totally isolated from the rest of the world, right? Wakanda stays completely isolated from the rest of the world. Nobody knows about what goes on in Wakanda. They certainly don't know the figures in Wakanda except for the king. So, with that in mind, there's no way Monica would know her. And then when the end of Black Panther happens, and Black Panther says, we're going to start opening ourselves up to the world. Great. But there's a very, very small amount of time that passes between that and when the events of Infinity War starts. That, of course, climaxes in the snap and everybody disappears. So I'm just not clear on how Monica would even know Shuri at this point. I'm not sure how she would even know her. I mean, it's not impossible. They can think about it. They can maybe come up with something, but it's difficult to conceive of how Monica would even know Shuri. So I don't know. That's the one kind of hesitation I have with that. But who knows? It very well could be, Christian. All right, next up. Dean Dillon writes, hey, John, big fan. Just heard Sony may be forced to sell the rights to Spider-Man. And that's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. Back to Marvel within the next 2 to 3 years, depending on the box office taking her. Yeah, no, ignore that. Sony doesn't have to do anything. Sony doesn't have to do anything. And by the way, the deal that they have with Disney kind of, they kind of set it up in such a way that they're under kind of a different set of rules right now than the normal licensing rules for when one company license out their other stuff is that normally there will be a ticking clock. Like this is how Daredevil went from Fox back to Marvel, was the fact that Fox, in order for them to hold on to the Daredevil rights, they had to make a movie every X number of years. And if they didn't go into production on a new movie, then the rights lapse and they go back to Disney. That happens quite a bit. With Spider-Man right now, any of those types of clauses in the contract are currently on hold because they have this special unique arrangement with Disney right now where Disney is the one producing the movies and Sony goes ahead and distributes them. This whole thing about box office results of movies that Marvel produces affecting the rights of Sony having Spider-Man, no way. No. Sony is putting way too much into their extended Spider-Verse. If they lost Spider-Man, they lose those characters too. So there's no way that I don't believe that for 1 second. I believe, like, I'm not, let's be clear here. I'm not saying whatever comic book Cast 2 is, I'm not saying they're lying. Not at all. I mean, I've been told things that were not true. I got told that Adrian Brody was going to be Ant-Man. Back in my movie blog days, I was told that Adrian Brody was going to be Ant-Man. And I got on the movie blog and I told the world Adrian Brody. You know how Edgar Wright's got this Ant-Man movie coming? Adrian Brody is going to be Ant-Man. I just found out. And I was told that. I wasn't lying. I was told that. But then Edgar Wright the next day said, yeah, Adrian Brody's not going to be Ant-Man. And so I wasn't lying. I was told that. And so I was just reporting what I was told. I completely believe that Comic Book Cast 2 is probably just saying exactly what they have been told and what they have discovered, but I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. That just doesn't make any legal sense. Coming from a law background, I can tell you that makes no contractual sense whatsoever. I mean, you never know. Like Rob says, you can put anything in a contract, but I don't believe that for a second. For now, don't believe that for a second. All right, next up. Christian Curry writes, part 2 of my Shuri theory is that she can use the data from when she was working on the Mind Stone with Vision to rebuild a vibranium stone that will absorb Wanda's powers. Then they can cause the stone to really bring Vision back. Again, you're forgetting, maybe if Shuri hadn't been snapped away, then maybe you can argue that in those 5 years, she spent researching, developing, and came up with a way to do this and this, but she was gone. She was gone. She never got to finish what she was doing on Vision, and then moments later, Thanos snapped, and she disappeared. And she was gone for 5 years, and has just come back. She's been back for 3 weeks. And there's a lot she's got to get caught up on Wakanda, caught up with her family, her mother, figure out and deal with the whole thing of just the fact that she's just been missing for 5 years and getting her life back together, and then do all that. I mean, it's a little out there. I think it's a little out there, but you never know. I love Letitia Wright. I love her as Shuri. I'll be happy if she pops up. It's a possibility. We'll just see if it actually comes to pass. And Leandro Urena sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Leandro. I appreciate that, man. All right. Jonathan writes, and guys, by the way, I know we're going long today. We're probably going to go 3 hours today. We're going to do a 3-hour show today. So let's keep on plowing through here, shall we? Jonathan writes, which is better, Wanda, a character we've known for years, turning good to bad through her grief as a sole antagonist, or yet another unknown and disposable Marvel villain? Okay, Jonathan, number 2. It's why I refuse to believe that there's someone else. Maybe it's Wanda's subconscious doing it. Think. We ourselves do things at a subconscious level without us understanding how or why. That's true too. Maybe that's the reason she doesn't know or how it started. Or it's a mix of her subconscious and personality disorder. And all these Agatha Harkness signs are all red herrings. For me, I find it more dramatic that it is Wanda alone who is the villain than some other unknown. Your thoughts? Well, listen, Jonathan, on the one hand, absolutely. There is a Shakespearean tragedy playing out. This is the thing. This is one of the things that makes WandaVision so special, and as special as it's been, is that there is a Shakespearean tragedy element of this WandaVision show. The breaking of a damaged, hurt, broken young woman from years and years, a lifetime of grief and tragedy. That finally, what is it that they said in The Dark Knight? What is it they said? He said, you either die the hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I think we're seeing kind of a manifestation of that in WandaVision. Right? We're seeing that come to pass. That an individual, no matter how heroic and noble, we as human beings can only take so much. We can only take so much pain and grief and loss and tragedy until something has. We literally have something Shakespearean happening here. Now, do I believe there is another party at play? I do. But right now, I still believe Wanda is still the main antagonist. Yeah, I think there's another force involved. But I don't think it's going to be another force involved that absolves Wanda from her responsibility. I believe it's clear Wanda is making choices. Wanda's making choices. that ultimately lead her to being an antagonist. Again, her conversation with Pietro was like, it's like when Pietro's bringing up, look, I know what you're doing here. Like, you hiding the kids normally, you know, blah, blah, blah. And she says, so you don't think what I'm doing is wrong? Like, that's an acknowledgement. She's doing it. She's making choices and justifying those choices to herself. And Pietro is helping her justify the choices. No, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. I'm impressed. Tell me, Wanda, how you doing it? There's something shady about Pietro. I think he's an imposter, but yeah, man. I mean, I think it's absolutely far more interesting, fascinating. There's a Shakespearean level to it to have her actually end up being the antagonist, but we'll see how that goes. All right. Next up, Anthony MR writes, I don't like The Last Jedi, and maybe that's my fault. It's never your fault if you like or dislike any movie. I was so invested in the expanded universe's version of Luke. However, I don't hate Rian Johnson, and I am willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. His choices were questionable, and I feel the story choice of The Force Awakens left him in a tight bind narratively. I think he is an overall better director and writer than J.J. Abrams with more originality. Given the chance, his Star Wars would have been better, maybe. Maybe. I mean, we'll never know. Look, what we all forget is this. Coming out of The Force Awakens, which I love, I make no apologies. I love The Force Awakens. I remember Schnepp and I, at least once or twice a week, we would take lunch and we would walk across the street from my studio, and we'd walk across the street to the AMC Burbank 16 because we had AMC passes, and we would just go in and watch an afternoon matinee of The Force Awakens, and then we would go back to work. And every time we would watch that movie, we would like it more and more. I love The Force Awakens. I do. That said, and that being understood, would Rian Johnson, the criticism though coming out of The Force Awakens, and everybody forgets about this, but the one main criticism that even fans of the movie and some detractors from it pointed out was that the movie was too much like Star Wars. The movie was too much like other Star Wars, right? It was too similar, they would say. It's too similar. And so going into The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson and probably some others at Lucasfilm, just having do something different. Do something really different. Do something really out there. Just get away from making it feel just like other Star Wars and do something different. And so they did. They said, take risks. But what we as fans, and I include myself in this, when we as fans, what we always forget, conveniently forget, is that when we ask filmmakers to take risks, I don't know if we really want them to do that. I think we as fans often play the good game and say, yeah, we want bold filmmakers. We want our filmmakers to take risks. But deep down, no, we don't. We don't really want them to take risks. We don't really want them to take risks. We want them to take the safe play. That's what we really want. Now, listen, you want a good example of that? Guess what? The Luke Skywalker showing up at Mandalorian end, that was the safest thing in the world that Jon Favreau could have done. It doesn't take away from the supreme awesomeness of it. Don't get me wrong. It was supremely awesome. You know how much I love that they did that. I loved it. It was great. But let's be honest. Let's be honest. That wasn't bold. It wasn't daring. I mean, what would everybody love? Everybody would love Luke Skywalker showing up at the end. Make Luke Skywalker show up at the end. It was a fairly safe play, right? There was no risk there. There was nothing out of the box there. It was the safe play. It was also the right play, and it was awesome, and it was incredible, and I'm glad he did it. But there was nothing bold about it. It was just the right thing to do in that moment, and the fans wanted it, and it was incredible. So we got to understand that when we tell filmmakers, we want you to take risks, we really don't. We really, really don't. We want them to take the safe play. We want them, what we want, and again, I'm as guilty of this as anybody. What we want them to do is just look at what the fans are asking for and just do that. That's what we don't want them to take risks. whether you loved or hated The Last Jedi, there is no denying Rian Johnson took, especially for Star Wars, took some really big, bold risks. But the thing that we as fans need to understand is if filmmakers do what we say we want them to do, which is take risks, we got to understand that when you take a risk, you are literally risking it not going well. And the bigger the risk you take, the bigger the chance there is that it's going to fail. The bigger the risk, the bigger the chance of failure, but also the bigger the reward. And I know some film fans who really didn't like The Last Jedi, but they loved that Rian Johnson took the big risks. You know, I've got a friend of mine, Josh, who was like, "Oh yeah, I hated Last Jedi, but I'm really glad he at least tried something really different. He tried to do something bold, and I respect that." Okay, cool, great. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, a lot of us fans don't really want our filmmakers to take risks. We want them to play it safe. Anyway, that's just kind of my interpretation of it at any rate. All right, next up, a fan of Peanuts writes, I just saw the Cruella movie trailer. This is the first one of these Disney spinoffs that to me absolutely looks interesting and pretty darn good. Nothing else looked worth my time. I got crazy Margot Insane Robbie vibes. Glad Disney has the balls. I'm telling you what, I had very, very little interest in Cruella. I was there in Anaheim at the D23 presentation when they talked about Cruella. And I remember thinking, yeah, this looks interesting, but I'm not super excited about it. I'm not super excited. And I've been that way, but I got to tell you, man, that trailer was really well done. That was a good trailer. So, I mean, yeah, I liked it too, fan of Peanuts. I liked it too. All right, next up, Murray Reich writes, I just saw the Cruella movie trailer. Wait a minute. Didn't we just do that? Yes, we just did that. Murray writes, confirmed, Wanda becomes Cruella. We got this from We Got This Covered. Of course, We Got This Covered is a online news outlet that gets a lot of clicks because they post complete bullshit. Never, ever read We Got This Covered. But yes, Wanda becomes Cruella. That's the big reveal. That's the big reveal. All right, next up, Murray Reich also writes, I want someone to put together a Cruella trailer with 2019 Joker trailer music. That would be epic. I hope we don't see Cruella pulling a Dalmatian's mouths like Joker did to Bruce Wayne. Wouldn't that be something? Oh my, I would see it. Still, have any of you guys seen this? The funniest thing I've seen on the internet in a long time was, I can't remember who did it, but somebody took that scene of Joker from Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, of Joker walking down the stairs and dancing as he's coming down the stairs, but they took the audio from a Cialis, which is like Viagra, from a Cialis commercial. They took all the audio from the Cialis commercial, including the music and the narrator. So they took the Cialis commercial audio and put it on top of the walking. Tell me in the live chat, have you guys seen this? Have you guys seen this thing? I think it's like one of the damn funniest things I've seen online and on the internet in a long time. I thought it was absolutely amazing. So I don't know if you guys have seen that or not, but if you were to put something like that together, and if you guys haven't seen it, look it up. Look up Joker Cialis, and you should find it. It is one of the absolute funniest things I've seen in absolute ages. Okay. Just one more, guys. One more, and then we'll call it a day. We've gone over 3 hours today. JT writes, hey, John, we all know that Kevin Feige won't be at Marvel forever. So I was thinking, do you think he will conclude his story for the MCU or move on with someone taking over where he left off? Thank you, and hope you have a great day. All right, thanks a lot for that. Yeah, and I don't expect Kevin Feige to be at Marvel for much longer. I give it 2 more years. I think Feige will be there for 2 more years. But I don't necessarily think he's leaving Disney. I think, listen, Kevin Feige is at some point, he's going to need a new challenge. There's literally nothing left. Once he gets the Disney Plus thing up and running with the MCU on there, what is left for him to do? He's got so many movies that have made over $1 billion. He's produced at least for now, the all-time #1 box office movie of all time. He's had his movies nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Black Panther was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. What is left for him to do? I think there's 3 things. I think there's 3 possibilities that make sense to me. Number 1, and listen, when you're somebody like Feige, you need new challenges. You need new challenges and new mountains to climb. So number 1, I think Lucasfilm becomes a possibility. Now, what I really think is going to happen is I think John Favreau will probably be the next person to run Lucasfilm. I know Rob disagrees with me on that, but I think John Favreau becomes the next president of Lucasfilm, but we'll see. But I do think Kevin Feige, a lifelong from birth Star Wars fan, moving over to take Star Wars, I think Disney overall has done a very good job with Star Wars. Mandalorian, I thought The Force Awakens was fantastic. Rogue One is amazing. I really like the Solo movie. I hate Rise of Skywalker. Everybody knows that. But overall, Disney's done a pretty good job. But Disney has not yet taken Star Wars to where it really has the potential of being. Kevin Feige, Disney, I think, would love to take him from Marvel and then take him into the biggest movie property of all time, Star Wars, and work his magic there. I think that's one option. Option number 2. And I want to address this one thing because this is what I see some people say. And Justice for All in the live chat says, Favreau is a creative, terrible take in my opinion. You're absolutely 1,000% wrong. You're absolutely 1,000% wrong. And here's why you're 1,000% wrong. You don't have to be the president of the studio. Does not mean you don't get to be creative. Do you think Kevin Feige isn't creative? Do you think Kevin Feige doesn't have the creativity? Do you think Kevin Feige isn't involved on a story level with all of his MCU? Of course he is, but he's also an executive. And when you watch the Mandalorian making of series, you see John Favreau is an executive. As he works with all these directors and all these writers, he's doing what Kevin Feige does, except he's doing it just for The Mandalorian. He's coordinating all the directors. They all work for him. They all report to him. And he is the executive in charge of Mandalorian. But he's also creative. I think he can do that on a larger scale. You put him in a position as president of Lucasfilm, he can do exactly what Kevin Feige does for the MCU. He can absolutely have his hands. He can be involved in the creative process, charting out the direction of all the different Star Wars properties, and then work one-on-one with all of his various directors. Except instead of just directors of individual episodes, he's working with directors that he picks on individual movies and series. I think you're 1,000% wrong to say that John Favreau can't do that. He's doing the job right now on a smaller scale. Those of you who've never worked in a studio system and who've never worked in something like that, you're failing to recognize that what John Favreau is doing on The Mandalorian is exactly what Kevin Feige does on Marvel, except on a smaller scale. Is John Favreau capable of taking that and doing it on a larger scale? I believe he is. And now he's going to be doing it and overseeing a couple of shows. He's going to be overseeing Mandalorian. He's going to be overseeing Ahsoka. He's going to be overseeing the Rangers of the New Republic. It's the exact same thing he's doing on Mandalorian is the exact same thing that Kevin Feige's doing on Marvel. It's just that Kevin Feige's doing it on a much larger scale. Favreau can do that. He can do that. But I do believe one of the options for Kevin Feige is Feige moves over and takes over Star Wars. That's an option. Option number 2, Feige gets a large promotion in Disney and becomes one of their heads of all studios. Just like Alan Horn is now Alan Horn he's getting ready to retire again. God bless Alan Horn. But he's getting ready to retire again. But up until recently, he has been the high, grand, exalted emperor of all things movies at Disney. Everything that involves Disney, it's Alan Horn. He oversaw Pixar, Lucasfilm, Marvel, Disney Pictures, Disney Animation. He oversaw it all. I could see him taking over that kind of role in a couple of years. Maybe. The third option that everybody gets mad at me for suggesting, but I if you don't think this is a possibility, I think you're crazy. The third option, in a couple of years, Kevin Feige leaves Marvel to go and take over Disney or take over DC for Warner Brothers. Now, for those of you who think that may sound crazy, think about this. Kevin Feige is a legend. Now, for what he did with Marvel, he's a legend. That'll never change. He is now a legend for what he did with Marvel. If he decides, mission accomplished, I've done it. Not only have I made Marvel movies great, I have made them the biggest box office success juggernaut in all of movie history. I did that. What's there left to do? Okay, you're a legend. But there's a difference between being a legend and being immortal. Between being a legend and being a god. If, this is all theoretical, but if Kevin Feige were to leave Marvel in a couple of years, because he's done everything there is to do, he's groomed a successor, leaves Marvel running in great shape and everything's good and healthy, and he leaves to take on a new challenge, and if he were to go over to Warner Brothers and take over DC, and if he were to get DC to that kind of level, he wouldn't be a legend, he'd be a god. He'd be a god. And at some point, and this is true in the entertainment industry, this is true in business, this is true in sports. At some point, when you've reached a certain level of success, you start thinking about legacy. You now start thinking about your immortal legacy. And yeah, Kevin Feige's already a legend. But I'm telling you, if he went over to Warner Brothers, took over their DC properties and got them even close to the level that he's brought the Marvel properties in terms of success, cultural impact, all that sort of stuff. We're not just talking about a legend. We're talking about his legacy becomes the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. It's undisputable at that point. He's the greatest of all time if he can do that. So look, I'm not saying he will do that. I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying I see those as three very real possibilities. Maybe taking over Star Wars as a lateral move, but taking over Star Wars, the object of his main passion ever since he was a child. That's attractive. Taking over all the film divisions of Disney, that's a possibility. And making another move to taking over Warner Brothers to cement his legacy. I just see those as three possibilities. Maybe it could be something else. I don't know, but I see those as being the possibilities. All right, I said that was going to be the last one. I don't know. Let's do one more. All right, Jacob writes, here's my WandaVision theory. Tony Stark shows up to stop Wanda, but he's played by none other than Tom Cruise. I get it, because Tom Cruise was going to play. And for those of you who don't know, Tom Cruise was initially targeted to play Tony Stark. I don't know if you knew that, but there was a period of time when he was kind of targeted to play Tony Stark. Anyway, but he's played by none other than Tom Cruise. There's no chance this will happen, but it's fun to pretend. Sending love from the UK. All right, thank you. That would be funny. Oh my God. If like an Iron Man, a very short Iron Man, but if an Iron Man shoot were to show up and then all of a sudden the mask lifts up and it's Tom Cruise, he's like, help me help you. If he said something like that, I don't know. That would be pretty damn funny. That would be pretty damn funny. All right. You know what? Hell with it. I'll do one more. One more. Absolutely the final one of the day, though. War Doctor 10 writes, hey, John and Rob. Rob's obviously not here today. With all the X-Men speculation in WandaVision, could Hayward be the MCU incarnation of William Stryker? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. Yeah, I mean, that's possible. A lot of people have drawn a lot of lines and similarities between the X-Men universe's William Stryker versus Hayward. Absolutely. Stryker hates mutants, wants to get rid of mutants. He's a military guy, blah, blah. Hayward, head of a government agency, seems to have a little bit of a hate on for the super-powered beings, all that kind of stuff. That's a possibility. I still kind of think it's going to ultimately end, though, with Hayward being a good guy. I don't know that. I mean, it could very well, I kind of think he could actually end up being a good guy. and we'll see if that actually happens or not. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, the William Stryker comparison is an apt comparison. It does kind of connect well, so we'll see where that goes. All right, guys. That will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show, a 3-hour and 15-minute version of the show. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Want to remind you one more time, don't forget, today at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that's 8 p.m. on the East Coast, but on 5 p.m. Los Angeles time, we will be doing a WandaVision pregame show. We're going to get together for about an hour. We're going to talk about what we expect and what we think we're going to see in tonight's episode. That's what we're going to do. It's our pregame show. Do some tailgating. Get together with some friends. Let's do this pregame show. So we're going to do that at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then, of course, tomorrow, that'll be Friday at 4 p.m., Ann and I will, of course, be doing our weekly WandaVision. Ann and I will be doing our weekly WandaVision spoiler discussion for episode 7. That comes tomorrow at 4 o'clock. But tonight, it's the pregame show. Tonight, it is the pregame show. So I hope that you guys will come and join us for that. Okay, guys, that will do it for me for this installment of the John Campea Show. Somebody's asking, will we do a pregame show for Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Hey, if these pregame shows go well, like if you guys like us doing the pregame shows for the next few WandaVision episodes, if it works, sure, we'll do that for Falcon and Winter Soldier too. If it doesn't work, then we won't. That's simple. Anyway, guys, so we're going to do a test run tonight. Thanks a lot for being here. Remember, first of all, special thanks to Erin Cummings for being here and bringing her great presence to the show. Thank you to all of you guys for spending time with us here today. I know we went a little long, but hey, that's what we do here sometimes. And a very special thank you to all of you guys who sent in those live questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. Number two, you supported this channel as you did it. Now, listen, there are still more questions to come. Don't worry, we'll get started and picked up with this on the John Campea Show again tomorrow. So hang in there. You sent in those questions. They're gonna get answered. All right, guys. Do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and especially if you live in Texas right now, take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.